Hello, everyone. This is your right geek, honorary man king, and leader of the Awkward Cop Squad. Here with number one Marmaduke fan and Punchy Sonic Chew to discuss some Iron Man comics. How are you today?
I've only had 6 drinks this morning, but I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I'm doing better than Iron Duke fan over there. I have actually only had four, and I'm a very tolerant drunk, so I'm going to be good.
Alrighty, so what specifically we are talking about today, as indicated by the title, is we are going to start working through. Oh, Evie's here! Yay! Hi, Evie. Um, we are going to start going through Denny O'Neil's Iron Man run, and since that's 40 comics, basically, we're kind of breaking it up into sections. Today we're dealing with the first section. That I assigned to my guest here, which is Volume 1, issues number 163 to 173.
That's right. Yeah.
Evie is asking why Punchy is blue.
That is because I am Punch Machine today, as we may find out as the stream goes along. Because this is actually getting into comic territory that I somewhat know and understand. I am disclaimer. I'm a big War Machine fan, so I'm now the Punch Machine for the day. But good catch, Evie. Continuity error medals for you.
Continuity error, yeah. Okay, so let me get my screen up here. All right, so where would you? I have a whole bunch of captures that I will be scrolling through. But where would you gentlemen like to begin?
I just wanted to kind of like share a general thought. I really enjoyed these 10 issues. We had, I think Denny O'Neil he's finding balance between the older Stanley style and I guess what would have been the more modern Marvel style of the 80s. There are little moments of dramatic evil speeches. There are classic things like the Marvel misunderstanding and a few goofy moments, but it's he has a really good sense for things like presenting his villains and having interesting visual motifs. He's finding great contrast between Tony Stark's business life and the descent into alcoholism. And there's also just like a real pure fun to the fighting. All the fight scenes, there were interesting, ideas of how Tony Stark, outsmarts people and gets out of the situation. I was really impressed by the voice that Rhodey has, where Rhodey has a distinct way of thinking and behaving that's different from Tony Stark's way of thinking and behaving. So you really introduced me to a really fun run here. And it was kind of interesting seeing these panels that you've shared and discussed before now in context of the broader narrative. So great, fantastic run. And I'd recommend it to anybody.
We're not even done with it yet. It gets better.
Oh God, spoilers. Well, yeah, I'd actually agree with Marmaduke on this. I really enjoyed it. I've never really been a big fan of that old Spike Lee style. Anyways, you know what I mean. But it's really well written. It's engaging. It is a little goofy at times, but it's endearingly goofy. And it's goofy in a very intelligent way. I like the way that he plays with the narratives and he plays with the tropes. We'll get into all that as we go along. So just the very bare bones outline is I did really enjoy the writing. I've read at least one of these issues on my own at Right Geek's recommendation. I've never read the entire series in one go though, right? Like not in chronological order, not in one sitting, anything like that. So this is a mostly new experience for me. There's maybe a stretch of like 3 comics a bit later. I think maybe the next episode or the episode after that I have read, in one sitting. But so this is going to be pretty pretty new, pretty fresh. And Evie, that would actually be quite interesting to see a video essay on this. Just to let you know, my understanding of War Machine is probably more limited than yours. I've mentioned this before, but I got into War Machine because of the video games rather than the comics. But I do really like him, and it was great to see his origin story, and I'm sure we'll get into that later too, because that was something that really stood out to me. Was the strength of the origin story. Well, maybe not exactly the origin story, since he's already an established character, but the strength of the story giving him front place as a genuine superhero of his own, right? So
coming into his own, yeah.
Yes. Hello, Warzord, the board time lord. Everyone's here. That's great. All the friends are here.
One thing I want to point out, you mentioned that Rhodey was an established character before this story began, and I think that's actually a very important point. One of the things that has been a topic of discussion often in comics YouTube is the big two, especially changing mantles around as if they're interchangeable. That anyone can put on the armor and be Iron Man. Anyone can carry the shield and be Captain America. And that actually turns out not to be the case. When you want to change over to a different character, what Denny O'Neil does here is actually the correct way to do it. It's to take a long-standing character that has been in this comic since the Leighton Michelini run, right? And actually building up a story that explains why he has taken this mantle on. This is the one strong example that I can think of how you take the heroic identity and shift it to someone else. It's something that the modern comics basically have lost the ability to do. They just think it's interchangeable and there's nothing you need to do to build it up.
Essentially, Rhodey cares about Tony Stark. So for an example, like I think what's her name, Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. So it was funny when we reread Civil War at some point. I don't know if it was for this stream or another one. Kate Bishop in like old 2000s comics was kind of making the point that I chose to be Hawkeye because I admire Hawkeye, and then in like 2016 era issues, they would just have like this weird thing where everybody who was replacing an older hero would bag on the older hero, right? But for Rhodey, right, he clearly has a lot of faith in Tony Stark, and he has a different person. He has different problems than Tony. Tony is very gifted technologically. Rhodey's a bit more of, your regular. He's like your Uncle Joe. He plays baseball. He's a pilot, so he's not unintelligent. He's very intelligent, but he's not a tech billionaire, a tech billionaire guy, right? So the fact that we get that contrast between him and Tony helps as well, because he's not just a copy or a replacement. He's his own character with his own soul.
Yes, and the fact that the other thing is. When the mantle, so to speak, shifts to Rhodey, we have this long period of several issues in which Rhodey says, basically, I don't even know how to use this armor. This is Tony's armor. I have to figure this out. And it takes him several issues to do that. You contrast that with mantle shifting today, and it's like the replacement character just automatically knows how to be that character, instead of having that learning curve period in which we have to actually figure out how this remarkable machine actually works, right? And even then, the entire time that Rhodey is Iron Man, I don't think that he ever uses it in quite the same way that Tony would. He figures out what he can figure out with the help of his assistants, right? But he doesn't he doesn't ever develop the Tony Stark level of understanding of the technology.
The best example I can think of is how Rhodey plays baseball to figure out the suit's abilities. Like that's just a great idea of like Tony goes into the lab and hits himself with lasers for some reason. Rhodey goes and plays baseball as Iron Man.
Yeah, that was great.
On Twitter when Tony stress tests the armor, it's like, let me stand in front of this artillery battery. If my armor fails, I will die. Oh well. You know. And yeah, so Rhodey has a much more safe way to stress test the machine that he's using.
Okay, so are we just going to do Rhodey now then, or do you want to do you want to wait until we get to it in the course of the narrative? Or,
well, we don't really have to address this chronologically. We can address it as the thoughts occur to us. So, since you brought Rhodey up, yes, let's discuss Rhodey. And I'll try to find the.
Okay. Yeah, that's good because I'm actually I was going to say that one of the things you said earlier was a direct quote from the comic about how you can put on the Iron Man suit and become Iron Man. Unfortunately, I can't find it in my notes, and I'm trying to find it in the comic too. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you have?
Yeah.
Do you have that? There's a moment I think Tony
I'm looking for it right now. I have a zillion captures here, so
yeah, because I thought that was very, very gallant of him and very, very nice. So if I remember the context, it's in the context of him finding out that Rhodey's put on the suit in Tony's drunken haze, and he's like, you know what, you're the Iron Man now, so you do the job. And like you guys said, you're completely right. That's what I was thinking as well. The biggest difference between Rhodey getting the mantle and current year guy or current year science girl getting the mantle these days is that Tony's actually Rhodey rather has actually earned the suit, right? He's an established character. He's someone we know. He's someone we care about. We've seen him struggle. We've seen his lows earlier in the run. I think it's issue like 164 or 165. He's actually the dude in distress. Tony has to go rescue him. He's completely helpless. And then he has to use his wits and his punching skills, which I can appreciate being a punch machine. His wits and his punching skills to get away from some two regular mooks. So, he's going through a character journey. He's building himself up. I think it was after that one, but he does mention that he will actually be Iron Man, or maybe that is the moment I'm thinking of.
Well, Marv, I know you mentioned this on Twitter as something that you found interesting. The way that this moment was treated was something that you apparently appreciated, according to your Twitter commentary.
So what starts to me about this is that Denny realizes he's having someone new take over the Iron Man mantle. It's the slam to be continued cliffhanger of the issue, so that gives it emphasis. He has the character recognize that this is a big deal for him, and he's about to undergo a change by putting on the armor. So the character emphasizes that this is a big moment. And then just like having things like having Rhodey being part of the action, have him being like the heroic pilot and escape from the spider bite guys or whatever, right? We've seen his heroic qualities. Becoming Iron Man is a magic thing where that's the star of the show. So maybe it's like the equivalent of becoming Super Saiyan in Dragon Ball Z. You can imagine the rising, swelling music. And Denny O'Neil, to his credit, knows that if you're going to have a moment like that, you ought to. It's like you have a pregnant pause, so the audience can appreciate that, because we want to enjoy this moment as a reader. We all know it's a big deal.
So Warzord says Tony uses the armor like how Star Trek TNG used their Enterprise. Rhodey uses it like how Star Trek TOS uses the Enterprise. That's a pretty good analogy.
I think that's fair. I think that's a good one.
Evie asks, How would this compare to the Falcon getting Captain America's shield? There is no comparison, because when Falcon got Captain America's shield, at least in the comics, he didn't retain his own personality. He just became another generic Captain America figure. Basically, when he got the shield, his entire personality changed. On the other hand, when Rhodey puts on the Iron Man armor, he is still fundamentally Rhodey in every respect. Denny keeps his voice, as Marm has observed. When Rhodey is in the armor, his thought process and the way he speaks is completely different than how Tony approaches situations. He has a distinct voice. Falcon as Captain America did not have a distinct voice. Falcon as Captain America was basically stripped of all the things that gave him the distinct voice when he was in the Captain America comics as Falcon. Like that's one of the things that drives a lot of people, including myself, crazy about this yen to make Falcon Captain America. And that is that Falcon was Falcon. He was his own identity, an own character. Why do you have to make him something else? Why do you have to give him the sloppy seconds of another character? There's no reason for it other than political correctness.
Well, how popular was this trope prior to this comic being released, though?
I've only seen a couple of examples. Like I can think of like Monica Rambeau for Captain Marvel. I think Azrael took over for Batman briefly in the 90s. Oh, and Evie's mentioning the Green Lanterns.
The Lanterns too. Yeah. And the Flash changed. And the Flash changed as well. So in
Flash's case, Wally West had been a character since the Golden Age, since the early Silver Age as Kid Flash. He'd been the sidekick, and I remember seeing John Jones, but they had a story arc where John Jones was tapped as being the second bravest man on Earth. So they kind of like tapped him as being Green Lantern's backup before he started like getting his own series and everything. Yeah,
but it wasn't super popular though. It wasn't like everywhere as it is in current year though. So what I'm wondering is if maybe Denny O'Neil was just too good, and his run being good was kind of what set the stage for future writers who didn't know what they were doing to step in and try to do these kinds of stories.
Though it does feel like the having someone take over cooled off for a while. Like there'd be a handful of them in the 80s, there'd be a handful of them in the 90s, there'd be a couple of them in the 2000s, and I feel like the weird replacement era for Marvel especially started like 2000, like late 2010s, right?
Okay, well, when because what year were these published? Like originally, not 2013. It's not 2013, obviously.
Yeah, mostly these were published mostly in 83.
Okay.
The entire run kind of spans 83, 84. This section of it is 83. Yeah.
So most of the people like working in positions of power at Marvel are probably like Gen X and older millennials at this point, right? So this would have been the kind of thing that they were reading when they were kids. So maybe that's, I don't know. This is just speculation on mine.
Okay. So like a generation jump. Yeah.
Yeah, like the generation jump. Like they might have grown up thinking like Denny O'Neil's so great, and they take the basic framework for the story, but they don't really get that you need that work, that build up, so that it's a payoff for the character rather than just a handout and hey, here's the new cool superhero, don't you love him? The Punchy effect, basically, for anybody that's a Simpsons fan.
I feel like we'd have to do like we have to get like Freud to put Brian Michael Bendis on a couch and then psychoanalyze, because Brian Michael Bendis is responsible for at least two of those like replacement
how old is he specifically? Do you know?
I feel like he's 50 now.
Yeah, so that would make him like like 10 or something, 12 when this comic came out.
Yeah, like older. He's like an older Gen X guy. I think.
Yeah. 1967
Hmm.
it says. So yeah. So he's probably like late teenagers or something, somewhere in a good comic book nerd age, for when this came
Mhm.
out. So that's, I don't know, that's just my theory on it. It's I blame Denny O'Neil for telling that's my
You did curse you, Denny, for doing a good job.
yeah. And you,
Well, it's just like you could say the same about Alan Moore, for example. Like
oh yeah,
Watchmen was done so well that everyone is now trying to copy Watchmen, while being less confident at it.
yeah, unfortunately, but at least Denny gave us a really good Rhodey story, though. That's something. I mean, I'm willing to take one really good Rhodey story and then have to suffer through rest of the. Am I offline, or is that someone else offline?
No,
No.
I think I went offline for a second.
Okay,
but you guys
yeah,
can still hear me,
I heard you
right?
just fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
I found what you were looking for. Tony here. Anybody who wears the armor is Iron Man.
There you go.
Look,
Yeah,
look, Brody, I'm
that's
tired
right.
of being a hero. I want to relax. Somehow I don't like the sound of that. Well, so here's the thing. Tony says anyone who wears the armor is Iron Man, and Rhodey is resistant to that idea. So instead of saying, sure, this mantle is mine, I own it, right? He is very, very reluctant and hesitant to take it on, right?
It's exactly
and that's
like
another difference.
It's like a king who's hesitant to, if the man who will be king is hesitant to claim the throne, that's the argument that that they're moral enough to have the power of kingship, is that they don't think they're worthy of that power.
Yeah, it's the old Sula story.
Yeah.
You're the Roman dictator, but you don't want to be the dictator, and you'll relinquish the power as soon as you can, and that makes you
after eliminating a few enemies and
yeah. I mean, after killing a bunch of people, but who cares about that? He was a great guy. That Sula. That's how we'll remember him.
Yeah, George Washington
not wanting to be. Yeah, that's another good.
Not wanting to be king. Yeah, George Washington not wanting to be king. Yeah.
Again, you compare and contrast that to sort of current year passing the mantle characters, and they're usually fine with it, right? They're like, yeah, I deserve it. Just
usually they're portrayed as. Usually they're portrayed as, yeah, I'm hot shit, I'm totally awesome, and I'm better than the old guy. Like, as Marm observed, when you get to later versions of Kate Bishop, for example, it's all about how Kate Bishop is so much more put together and better than the original Hawkeye, right?
I mean, hot take, but I actually do think that Rhodey is better than Tony Stark. I think he's more put together, and I think this especially shows it.
But the thing is, he doesn't. Rhodey absolutely is more psychologically healthy than Tony is, but
okay.
He doesn't, but he doesn't present himself. Yeah, he doesn't present himself that way. He doesn't walk around saying, I'm hot shit. He walks around saying, oh God, this is this incredible responsibility I've taken on, and I don't think I'm ready for it, right?
Well, that's why he is. He is
completely opposite response. Yeah.
So he's got the military mindset. He knows the challenges and he's willing to meet them, but he doesn't get carried away. So he's very conscious of his situation. He's got situational awareness at all times.
Oh yeah, so I like this little scene.
Yeah, he's actually upset when Tony
won't take it back. Yeah. So when Tony won't take it back, his reaction is to be pissed, not to say, "Oh, goody, now I get to be this hero," right? Yeah. Then he has
it parallels really well with the alcoholism story, because we have like the fantasy hero angle, becoming Iron Man, and my buddy is an alcoholic. His company is falling apart. I want to help out my buddy and keep his life from falling apart, but my buddy won't take agency and take steps to put his life together. So,
right.
That makes the point. The parallel is great, and it really hits you in the gut.
Yeah,
Right,
and
right.
he's passing the responsibilities on to Rhodey, and Rhodey doesn't want the responsibilities, but he knows that the only way to help his friend at that point is to shoulder these extra responsibilities, this thankless job of being Iron Man, which he has no idea how to do. So yeah, again, this is this I feel this is a very military mindset. You can tell that he's had history with his battle buddy Tony, and that he's willing to do what it takes. But he does get really pissed off at his battle buddies sometimes if they're being a shitbird. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
So that resonated with me. That combination of camaraderie and willingness to sacrifice while also being really salty and hating the hell out of everything that's going on, all at the same time. Was Denny ever was he a veteran, or did he have any family that was he like a military brat or anything? Do you know?
That I am not aware of. I am aware of that he had his own issues with substance use. So this story has a very personal resonance.
That comes through. That comes through a lot too, which we can get to in battle buddy Tony, well, Blue Falcon Tony at this point, unfortunately.
Battle buddy Tony, yeah.
Yeah, he is the BF. But yeah, Rhodey is great in this series. I think he's the real hero of at least these first several issues.
I thought it was interesting how in the in the warm-up issues there is a theme of Tony having to say no to alcohol repeatedly, and Tony really being on top of his game. But also, you can tell that Denny wanted to take it in this direction. I think there's this scene on the airplane where he gets soaked in gin, and he hasn't drank alcohol. Yeah, he just feels pathetic, right? So he has a few pathetic weeks building up to a sadistic evil villain cleverly tempting him with a bottle of alcohol at his weakest moment, right?
That's how it happens, doesn't it? It's a process of slow little chips away at your willpower. And he even says when that bottle of gin hits him that was the moment that he was doomed. Do you have?
Right.
Do you have
I'm finding. I'm looking for it right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the Shakespearean climax of the story, except it happens, way earlier than normal.
No time. I have it. Where is it? I have it.
I find it. Oh, there's a Pepper Potts cameo. Do you have the Pepper Potts cameo? That was fun.
Yeah. She's got a kid. She's a little fatter, but she's just wistful about the good old days.
That would never work. That would never work in current year. I will disavow that and cut it out of the Netflix.
Well, I don't know. Like these weebs are doing more for body positivity than feminists ever did. Like it's all like, oh, I need a tomboy GF. Oh, I need a wholesome mommy with GF.
I can't find.
Found it.
Issue 166. Yeah, you got it?
Yeah. So 166, if I recall correctly, that's the one that I refer to as
page 4.
Yeah, that's the one that I refer to as Tony Stark and the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. That's the one I refer to. It's the issue where everything goes wrong.
Yeah, I mean that was a bit ridiculous. That was one of those like old school comic moments where I was chuckling at it, but it was a bit eye rolly. It's like everything that could go wrong is going wrong, and it's just piling it up like an old school comedy of errors, basically.
And then a piano fell on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His luggage gets sent to Afghanistan or something,
Yeah.
There's no toilet on the plane. There's no food.
Yeah. So this is the part you're talking about. Later, Tony Stark will remember this moment and mark it as the beginning of his defeat. Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, as Mom was saying, in the build-up issues, right? The entire point of that storyline is to gradually break him down so that eventually he gives in to temptation. And yes, there are references throughout 163 to 166 of him being constantly tempted and still heroically resisting the temptation until you get to the end of 167, right?
Yeah, well, it was similar to the previous bout of comics that we read for this stream. But
Yeah.
as you guys might recall, with the last stream, I enjoyed the comics, but I was a little bit disappointed with the alcoholism angle, as I felt that it came on too quickly. It was like a very special episode of a TV show. It just kind of hits you almost out of nowhere. I think the build-up was a bit too subtle in the earlier stream, but in this one, I think it was handled actually really quite well. It was well paced out, and there were little things, like I noticed the drowning motif came back in, which they used to good effect in the previous alcoholism storylines. Just little kind of here's the alcohol bottle, now he's not going to do it. Somebody's drinking in the background, we'll just ignore it, and it builds up.
Also, some explicit discussions of Tony using Iron Man as an adrenaline rush. I even think he talks about seeing a pretty girl and feeling adrenaline. So we see him have adrenaline rush and crash because he didn't do too well as Iron Man before the cave to alcohol. So his character problem of addiction runs through his whole life. And it's not just alcohol on top of a character.
Right.
It makes sense that a character like Tony would be an alcoholic.
Yeah, I mean he does.
Right.
I'm trying to find, because I've got that panel where he's talking about his love of the Iron Man suit as well, but can't find that either.
There's a lot of panels like that, and I know I've got some. So
yeah.
Like in 160. Yeah, it's like in 167. There's one part. I think it's this one.
Yeah, but he's also addicted to the ladies, which proves to be his ultimate fan.
Yes.
Which do we want to get into that? Or
his Shakespearean flaw. His Shakespearean flaw was doing G-rated dating two pretty girls at one time. He buys them flowers and takes them out on dates, and that's what a G-rated billionaire playboy does.
His Shakespearean flaw is that he's too much of a Chad. That's his downfall, unfortunately.
Wow,
it is
really relevant because
he's not a Chad. He's a simp.
He's a simp trapped in a Chad's body. Okay, this is my take on Iron Man's love life, right? And I could be completely off base with this, so please, Professor Wright Geek, grade me on this and let me know if my reading comprehension has been up to par. Right, but the impression that I get is that he is outwardly a Chad, right? He's got the body and the mindset and the drive of the Giga Chad.
Yeah.
But in his heart, right, he's got the soul of a monogamous. He's basically got the soul of Rhodey, right? Because Rhodey is a very sort of one woman kind of guy, which I can get a bit more into that too. But that was like right at the end of the thing. But Iron Man is, he's got this outward bravado, but he's got this inward yearning for, the one woman who will make his life complete, right? All these thoughts that he's running around with, like the Instagram models and the OnlyFans girls, right? He forgets their names. Half the time he doesn't even realize that he slept with them.
Yes.
That especially becomes a problem later on when he's drinking. But even before that,
Yeah.
right, you get the idea that he's not satisfied at all by this playboy lifestyle. But he does have that playboy attitude in him, right? You know, that is part of his personality, but that's part of his addiction. That's the bad side of Tony coming out, the unfulfilling side of Tony. That's just looking for a cheap adrenaline rush and not getting anything lasting, meaningful out of it. Would that be an accurate summation of Tony's love life?
That is a beautifully accurate summation. Yes. Yeah, and I would argue that the roots of that stem from how his father Howard treated him. The fact that the later comics in the later 80s start getting into more of Tony's childhood, and what they all imply about Tony is that naturally he's kind of a sensitive guy who wants to spend time reading books and being a nerd and playing with his erector set and so on. And his father sees this and decides that no, my son is turning into a sissy. I can't have that. I'm going to make a man out of him.
So he's Bruce Totally not gay or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm gonna make a man out of him. So when Tony is like 8 years old, he's like, drink this whiskey, it'll put hair on your chest. And when he's 7, he sends him to boarding school so he can get tough because he's too much of a pansy, right?
Is it Hogwarts?
So
does he get to go to Hogwarts?
So Tony is no, not Hogwarts, sadly, but.
At least it's not Bruce Banner's dad, like knocking him across the room when he's 3, and that's why Bruce Banner's angry all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, child abuse is a really good driver for character.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I would say that in the comics, Howard is emotionally abusive at the very least. But what was I going to say? I was going to say that the constant message that Tony got from his father when he was growing up is that a true man is basically all of those things that feminists describe as toxic masculinity, essentially. Because I do in fact think that there is such a thing as toxic masculinity. The problem is that feminists define things that are normal guy behavior as toxic when that's not really what toxic masculinity is at all. So there is such a thing as toxic masculinity.
What is best in life?
To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentations of their genderqueer other kin.
but
that kind of thing, right?
Yeah. But it's so that those parts of his personality, those bad parts or those unhealthy parts, are like what has been layered on to his natural self. From years and years of his father telling him that if he doesn't act a particular way, then he's a sissy who's not worth anything. But then, of course, like he's living in this way and he's presenting himself in this way, and he knows the entire time that he's living this playboy life that this is not the real him, and he feels very inauthentic doing it. And that, that's an impression you get reading basically every comic in volume 1, and Tales too. So
this page you're showing is actually the one I was thinking of. He puts the armor on for the armor makes him feel good, right? Exactly like taking a drink for no other reason than hoping the drink will make you feel strong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think in this
exactly
case,
for this reason. Yeah.
It does legitimately make him feel strong. I mean, it is an Iron Man suit. You can't really get much stronger than that. But
I love the detail when he was. I love the detail when he was drunk and he broke into the museum and put on the armor. And no one can defeat me in my armor. I'm invincible.
Oh, yeah, I was really upset about that. I was actually going to tweet that out with all these HEMA hashtags talking about how that couldn't be a suit of armor from the time of Charlemagne because it was clearly like a 16th century Milanese suit of plate or something. And then Denny makes it quite clear that the security guards really don't know what they're talking about, and I'm like, okay.
But that's always the kind of thing where you tell the artist draw a suit of armor, so the scripter thinks it's a suit of armor from the time of Charlemagne, and the artist, okay, I will look at my armor books, and then he draws a suit of armor from one of his, big books of medieval armor, right? And you're stuck with whatever you've got. Maybe in this continuity, Charlemagne and Arthur had highly advanced armor makers.
Yeah, maybe it was like French Wakanda or something. I mean, that is true. It is like superhero world. When did the superheroes get started? Because wasn't like Wonder Woman, like she was around since the ancient Greek times, right? And obviously Thor's been around since forever because he's Thor.
All right. So when do people become conscious of heroes in Marvel and DC's universe? I feel like in both times, like they're super powerful people who exist, but people don't notice superheroes running around in spandex until like sometime in the 1940s. And in World War II, everybody starts running around in spandex.
Before then, so they wouldn't have been running around in spandex. They would have been running around in something else. But maybe suits of armor like that. Maybe Charlemagne was like a superpowered mutant or something.
I think this
an idea for a comic.
Evie, this precedes Al Gore inventing the internet.
Yes.
Was Google a thing when this was made to research that?
No,
it was made in 1983, so no.
Yeah. The internet was a thing, actually. There was an internet, but only super nerds were on it, and there was no Google. Google wasn't until like the late 90s, early 2000s. That was the beginning of the end, unfortunately.
But so Evie asked, does the armor make him feel like a man? Yes, absolutely. As he says in the so this is what they were talking about him putting on the armor when he's drunk. I'm invincible, nobody can beat me, right? But the other page that I was on, let me get back to it if I can. Yeah, this one. The other page that I was on, he basically says essentially as much. He says, no real reason to put on this old armor, except that I feel better wearing it, less vulnerable, more myself, right? So I would say that the armor does make him feel like a man. And furthermore, because he actually is fundamentally a pretty sensitive character, I think it also, as he says, it feels like protection to him. The world can't get at me if I have this on, because he is especially sensitive to the world, what goes on in the world.
Yeah, that would be my I mean, but both things I think are true, but my emphasis would probably be on that latter point. I think he genuinely does feel more like himself in the Iron Man suit. I think he does like it because it makes him feel like a man. I mean, obviously it's a cool suit. It makes you super powerful and you can fly and you can do all these awesome things. But it also lets him get away from that Tony Stark, the Playboy billionaire lifestyle, right? Like the masks that he's wearing. Tony Stark, it's like have you guys ever seen Kill Bill?
No, I haven't yet.
Oh no. Okay. Well, it's a great movie. I would definitely recommend Kill Bill.
Yeah. Okay, that was the one that made Quentin Tarantino like a household name, right?
No, I think that was Pulp Fiction more.
All right.
More likely. The Kill Bill was after that. That was kind of like when he was already established. That was his big
his next big hit.
Yeah. Millions and millions of dollars. Now I can blow it on doing this massive thing. Well, yeah, Evie says I have. Evie, do you remember there was that big speech at the end where Bill starts talking about Superman and why he loves Superman?
I've seen that clip. Yeah, I used that.
Yeah, because that's famous. Do you remember the gist of it?
Okay, I think he argues that. Okay, I don't remember which angle it is. He's either arguing that Superman is the secret identity, and Clark is the true person, or he's trying to argue the opposite.
The opposite. That with most superheroes, right? The superheroes tend to have their secret identity, and then they have their civilian identity, their true identity, right? And most superheroes, like Spider-Man, let's say, they have the true identity, which is Peter Parker or whoever it is now, I don't know, Joe Schmo or whatever. And then they have the secret identity when they put on the superhero mask and they go out and they fight crime and they do all the cool things, and then they go back to their true selves when they take the costume off. But Bill's insight, the reason that he really enjoyed Superman was because Superman inverts that trope, right? Superman is not Clark Kent. Clark Kent is his secret identity, the normal average guy who just lives a schmuck life working for the newspapers, right? It's when he puts on the costume that he becomes his true self, that he's able to come out and be the man that he knows he can be and that he really is, right? And I think that's much the same way with Iron Man. I think Iron Man, his civilian identity, right? Tony Stark, playboy billionaire, everybody loves him. He's banging all the thoughts on Instagram, right? That is his secret identity, right? That's his cover. It's only when he gets into the Iron Man suit and he walls himself off from the world and he feels safe that he's able to become this, transcendent, heroic knight character who's very sensitive and who's looking out for everyone's best interest, and who's willing to sacrifice and fight till his last breath, that kind of thing. So I think
Tony Stark is the mask he puts on to disguise who he is from the rest of the world. Yeah.
Tony Stark is not Tony Stark. Tony Stark is Iron Man. I think one of the reasons that he likes Iron Man, yes, it is because it helps him feel like a man, but I think he is a man just naturally, and he needs that little boost, that little sense of security to help bring that out in him. So that would be my take on Iron Man. He's more of a Superman hero than a normie hero.
Yeah, once again, Punchy, I think you have it 100% correct. I think that he has, in earlier comics, we learned that he has dreamed since basically childhood when he was reading books in the library about heroes and knights in shining armor and stuff like that. He has dreamed to be one of those heroes, right? And that is, in fact, his real self. That's what he really wants to be. But again, I talked about his father earlier. He has all of these external pressures that are forcing him to be something else that is not his authentic personality.
Yeah, that would make sense. The father constructed.
That is, yeah.
Yes.
So the father constructed personality is the Tony Stark that the public knows. And then, yes, Iron Man is, in fact, the true guy. But he has to, tragically, he has to cover up in the armor in order to feel free enough to express that true guy.
I had one more kind of interesting, overarching observation that was kind of woven throughout the series. So at some point, Tony's armor gets corroded by purple haze or purple mist.
God.
And
is this going to be about the costume and the continuity errors? Because that really bugged me.
I wasn't thinking about that specifically. I was thinking more specifically that he had an old suit that wasn't his most up-to-date armor, right? So Iron Man literally is not at his best. Tony's literally not at his best. And in the fight with Machine Man fights him under the assumption that maybe Iron Man's a robot, just like me. And the whole fight, Man is thinking his programming must be malfunctioning. His motor units must be out of kilter. And when he finds out that it's a man, he says, "Oh, he's sick in a way only a man can be." So maybe just one more, there are several subplots reinforcing it, but even Tony not having his best armor is another undercurrent which reinforces the idea that Tony the man is not at his best right now.
Yeah, so
Yeah, that's
here's from the Machine Man issue. Yeah, even ever under any circumstances, I have a feeling he has something profoundly wrong with him. He's damaged as only human beings can be damaged. In some ways, we machines are lucky. Yeah.
snooty
All of
machine,
the
uppity
yeah.
machine, toaster. I actually really like.
Yeah. So go ahead.
So yeah, well, I was just going to say that I actually really liked that whole sequence with Machine Man and Tony, and I think the thing that really got to me and really stood out was, I mean, usually like when you have a fight with Iron Man, right? It's not just punch, punch, kick, kick. It's punch. Hey, I'm going to have this internal dialogue where I've got to work things out and figure things out and puzzle things out. Kick, kick. Okay, now I got to figure out something else out. You know, he's always thinking to himself and being clever and coming up with stuff. And during the Machine Man fight, it flips. So you're getting all that internal dialogue, but it's coming from the perspective of Machine Man. And you're already primed to be rooting for Machine Man against drunk Tony Stark, because you're like, oh, okay, this guy is now the protagonist. This is now our Iron Man, our literally Iron Man at this point. So it was something small, but I thought that was rather clever and rather nice. The change of perspective right in mid fight. And to be honest, I thought he was going to be a supervillain and show up and like try and murder Tony Stark, and the fact that he was actually a very nice robot was
the fact that that's actually happened to Tony several times. It makes us forgive Tony a little bit. Like my favorite bit was like the Melter just comes in his outfit and says, "Is Tony Stark in today?"
He's sitting there in the supervillain.
Okay, comes back the next day. Is Tony Stark in today? Yeah,
because that
clearly
happened
a
before
supervillain.
this. Did that happen before this or after this? I think it might have happened before. But
I think the Melter happened before this. Yeah.
Yeah. But because you're already getting used to it. It's like, oh my god, like another caped weirdo is showing up and trying to murder Tony Stark. Like, how is this even happening? But it turns out he is a very nice robot. He's a good toaster. He's the one that Battlestar Galactica should not frack. It was a fun sequence.
Yeah, so this is the part you were talking about, Marm, where after he thinks he's another robot. Something's gone wrong with his programming. He's a danger to me. Yeah. But also, then he realizes. Go ahead.
As Punchy, when Punchy mentioned the perspective changes, Machine Man is also behind the 8 ball. He basically throughout this thinks, I don't have the weaponry to take out a guy like Iron Man. All I basically have is that he's malfunctioning. And then just to cleverly, I'll override his programming. Maybe that'll work, right?
Yeah, and that's a very Iron Man-y thing. Right. That's a very Iron Man-y thing too. I mean, they really do a good job of setting up Iron Man as being an underdog in every fight, even when he shouldn't be an underdog in a fight, right? They find a way to get that tension, so that you're always wondering, like, is Iron Man going to win? Even when he's fighting the multi-ethnic, diverse, woke street punk gang, he's at a disadvantage, even though they're like normies, right? So that was nice. See, that's almost like that's a way to write superheroes that we actually care about, because you give them tension and drama. And
how are they going to get out? How are Batman and Robin going to get out of the giant buzzsaw machine that
they've got infinite power because they got shot by a space engine, and now they can do anything they want, Marmaduke. So
okay. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, the trick to that is you have to give them friends who they care about, and then you put the friends in danger. The normie friends are the ones who are in danger before the all-powerful hero comes in. Yeah.
They do that too with Rhodey. You know, when Iron Man is at his peak in power, fighting all the chess pieces, he's got to do everything quick and fast and efficient, because if he doesn't, Rhodey's gonna get bit by all the spiders and dies.
Right. Though Iron Man didn't help Rhodey out much after Rhodey fled the hospital. It was Rhodey and Whiteface all by himself for a while.
I disavow. based roadie coming out and just beating people up in whiteface. That was quite triggering, I must admit. But yeah, okay, right there. All those the little drippy acid things dripping all over his costume. Just flip through a couple of those panels and tell me if you notice anything, because that was ticking me off.
Oh, like the bubbles are never in the same place?
Yeah, like the bubbles and the damage. And, like, even after he gets out of it, like while he's in the room, I can see, like, the costume's dynamically melting, whatever. But even after he gets out, like the bubbles keep shifting around, and it's never in the same place twice. That was really annoying to me.
Because the artist says, okay, I have to put bubbles somewhere on this drawing, right? Yeah. And then in the next drawing, they're at a different angle, and the artist thinks, I have to put bubbles somewhere on this drawing.
Make an entire stream about this now. This is our nitpick stream where we're just nerds and we nitpick things.
Cinema sins counter, counting up sins.
Counting up how many bubbles are in the wrong place in every single panel.
Warzard had an interesting comment about Superman. So he would say, I would say that's true about Superman and Superman 1, 2, and 3, meaning Superman being the real identity. What's kind of interesting about that is I feel like if you look at Superman in like the 90s TV series or the cartoon, they started emphasizing Clark Kent. If you go back to the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, there's a much stronger emphasis that Superman is the real person and Clark Kent's the disguise. And if you go back to the Golden Age, there are actually several stories where Clark Kent is explicitly just something that Superman comes up with. I think in the radio serial, he comes to Earth as an adult alien, and he talks to some farmers, and the farmers suggest that he dress in normal clothes so he can find people to save. And some farmers just suggest the name Clark Kent to him. So there is like this interesting transformation aspect where characters like Superman have transformed over time. It feels to me like we read some of the really early Iron Man issues. It kind of feels like Stan Lee managed to bake a lot of the basic ideas into the cake of Iron Man, like the knight in shining armor aspect, the flawed billionaire playboy aspect. So maybe like the Marvel heroes, they had a chance to solidify them a little bit more than the old Batman and Superman heroes were, where they got to be a little bit more flexible, and there were very different versions of them in those early Golden Age years. Yeah, so I would half agree with Warzard. I think it's true that Superman isn't always that way, but there is a strong pattern of Superman being that way. And actually, when you mentioned it, I thought of how Spider-Man's very different. Like Peter Parker is definitely Peter Parker definitely thinks of himself as Peter Parker, and of Spider-Man as the suit he wears. And Uncle Ben gives him this urgent responsibility to be Spider-Man. But again, Uncle Ben is Peter Parker's adopted father, right?
He's not Mr. Spider-Man or anything.
Yeah,
he's part of the Peter Parker life. I mean, I will just say, I don't want to get too far into Quentin Tarantino, because this isn't a Quentin Tarantino stream or anything. But Tarantino is an arch hipster. He loves to find obscure comic book and pop culture things and then just milk the shit out of it. So he was probably referring to old radio play original OG Superman. For all I know, that could have been what he was thinking about when he wrote Bill saying all that stuff. So just food for thought.
You know how I knew that clip? I did a high school presentation on archetypes in high school, and I wasn't allowed to watch Kill Bill, but older brother Duke told me about that scene, and I found that scene on YouTube, and I used that in my school presentation. So nice. So I've seen that specific scene. Yeah. I've seen.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the. I mean it's not the best scene in the movie. I didn't really like the scene because I never really liked Superman. So I was at that point I was like, yeah, just kill Bill. Come on, kill him. But it is a memorable scene, especially if you're into comics, and that's his big like snappy dialogue scene from Kill Bill. If you like snappy dialogue, the best scenes are the fight scenes, like the crazy 88 fights and everything. But if you want talking rather than slicing and punching, Superman's a good Marmaduke.
Okay, I didn't notice this until you just popped it up. So at this point in the story, we haven't learned that the thought is Queen, right? So I was reading this. I thought, oh, she's the good girl. She's the love interest. And I thought, well, that's weird. Why'd she take him into a pub? Oh, because she's secretly evil. Oh,
yeah. I got the evil vibes right away just from looking at her. You know, I've got really good thought, Dara, and I'm like, yeah, especially with a name like Moonji. I'm like, you know, there's got to be a quick, because if this guy's like a chess guy, right? There has to be a queen, and it's not going to be Pepper Potts.
There has to be
obviously.
a queen. Yep.
Unless it was Pepper Potts. If I was doing a rewrite, I would have that little Pepper Potts cameo, which I think was inserted just to kind of juxtapose this addicted Tony, right? You know, addicted to thoughts Tony, with the sort of stable monogamous Tony life that he could have had if he was a bit less of a simp, right? But you know, if I was going to rewrite it, I'd have like Pepper Potts show up in a giant android tentacle suit and, you know, start destroying Manhattan or something.
Well, that's because you want to deconstruct Pepper Potts' homely family waifu.
Yes, that's exactly. It's going to be totally postmodern and degenerate. And she's not going to be wearing go-go boots. She's going to be wearing sneakers like a good M&M. Because that's how we sell it in the current year.
Well, the funniest thing about that is the sexy M&M thing. That isn't like an old 1950s thing. That's like a 2010s thing. The sexy M&Ms.
I didn't even like. Sorry to bring that up, but I wasn't even really aware of the sexy M&Ms until all that Linkara stuff dropped. To be honest.
Oh God, I don't want to know about.
Yeah, you don't. And some of you might, if you've ever watched like Jim or Medica or anything.
Did you learn your lesson?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to bring up the Muppets.
All right. No Chris Chan style tangents. No.
This one. Well, I was going to say it was worse than.
Oh wait, worse than a Chris Chan? You're dragging me in.
No, just the Muppet thing. Just look up the Muppet thing later. I don't want to bring that up on the stream because that's horrible. Yeah, good comics. Tony Stark. This was a good comic. Yeah, did we want to do anything about the chess piece stuff?
Well, I just wanted to note that I'm sure that the chess pieces at several points in the game are in legal positions. It's impossible to arrange your chess. So of course, either the evil genius is maniacally laughing and playing chess to show how smart he is, and he doesn't know the rules of chess. Well, or my galaxy brain take is maybe he's such a genius that he sets up illegal positions in chess on purpose, just to test his chess knowledge with unusual puzzles
every day. That's part of being a supervillain. They're doing illegal things, but I mean, there is a way, like because I noticed like some chess problem bot or something liked one of my comments because I mentioned chess, and there is a way, like if you have chess problems, like you can set up the pieces any way you want, just randomly on the board. It doesn't have to be legal, but I do actually think that example you posted on Twitter was illegal.
Oh, okay, because the bishop was in the corner, but the pawn was in front of it, so it couldn't have gotten into the corner without.
Hang on, which one were you talking about? I'll just pull up Twitter real quick. Goodbye, Fernando Valenzuela. Oh, that was something else I was going to ask. If anyone knows who Fernando Valenzuela is,
no,
from because I didn't know. Rhodey makes a reference to several baseball things, and I actually did get the 1919 World Series reference because, and I was thinking about this when the Venezuelan thing came up because I had a lesson on baseball, an entire semester devoted to baseball like I think sixth grade, our history teacher somehow managed to get the school to agree to let him teach baseball for like an entire third of the year. Um, so I learned all about the 1919 World Series, but I didn't get the Valenzuela reference. I'm thinking it might be a reference to like a really good rookie year performance, but I could be completely wrong. So if anybody knows anything about early 1980s baseball, do you know why Rhodey might have compared himself to this gentleman?
Sorry, I don't know much about 1980s baseball.
Early 1980s. Like
Neither do I.
1982, something like that. I don't know, whatever. That was just kind of autism. Where were we? Oh yeah, the chess thing. Where is Marmaduke?
All right, so I think it's it's issue 163, page 6.
Oh, okay. Issue one.
That means the game can begin in earnest. Attend me, my knight.
63, page 6. Oh, yeah, no, I think that would be fair. I mean, the bishop can be there, and the pawn can be there depending on which way the board's set up. That
Well,
looks
okay,
like
he's been playing black, right? He's been playing black,
Well,
and white has been opposite
both.
him.
I
You're right. He's playing both,
on
but
the white side, and he's like sitting on the white side, and he's just moving both because he's the chess.
Right. He's moving both because he's playing against himself. But traditionally, he's had black in front of him, because black's what the bad guy always play. So option one is if white is opposite him, then there was no way for white to get their bishop there. But if he's playing white and moving his pieces, then he could. Yeah. Okay.
He could still do that.
It could be legal if his white pieces had moved across from him. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, and actually, you know what? Now the tweet that got liked by the chess person is actually incorrect. I think because I was thinking that he was white on the 4 side, like closer to him. But if he was white on the other side, then the black knight actually wasn't being sacrificed to put Tony into edge. So that just completely blew my entire analogy and my entire interpretation.
I'm sure the right geek knows this, but Punchy, do you know what the no prize is? Do you know what the no prize is?
No prize.
If you wrote a letter to Marvel,
it's when you notice it's when you notice a mistake in a comic and you mention it in a letter.
But you also had to write it in such a way as to like earn it. So they started to like it more. Like it wasn't enough just to point out a mistake. You had to come up with an explanation for why the mistake wasn't really a mistake, and then they would send you an empty envelope as a no prize for being such a studious leader. Okay. If only I was born in the 80s, I could have gotten a no prize. No.
Yeah, well, I think I found the one I was thinking. It's on page 10 actually, and yeah. So because the thing was right, like this pawn would have been coming. That would be the A file that the pawn's on, because the actual pawn, the character of the pawn, was coming out stage left of where he was sitting. So that's the left of the board. That's the A file of the board. So that pawn can be there.
All right.
Originally, I thought the pawn was going away from, moving away from him, right? In that case, it would be in a position to capture the knight, and the knight is now checking the. Actually, is that the queen or is that the king? I think that's supposed to be the king.
I think it's supposed to be the king. Yeah.
It's supposed to be the king. Yeah. So the knight's now checking the king. And I was like, oh, well, he's making a statement where because he's sacrificing his knights to go after the king, and obviously the knight's going to fail because knight's a scrub and Iron Man is much better than a knight. So I was like, oh, that's some kind of really crazy visual metaphor. But if he's going the other way, then the knight is safe from capture. And you know what? I'm overthinking things. I'm sorry. I was trying to find patterns in the chessboard and they're not there. It probably is just silly stuff that he throws down.
I know that based on the pre-show that Punchy, based on the pre-show. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I know based on the pre-show, Punchy, that you wanted to yell at Tony regarding the super thought succubus
Oh yeah.
in Dre's movie. So I want to give you space to do that.
Do you want to move on to Belle Delphine and all the in the story?
Gamer bathwater.
Yeah, Miss Game of Bathwater.
I'm cool with that. Yeah.
Yes, I absolutely do.
Okay, yeah. Let's forget about the
That's why
minutia of the chessboard for a few minutes, and go to the thoughts. Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, no e-girls. Yeah, I mean, well, see, that's a very roadie attitude, young man.
Yeah.
This is now Tony's game, and Tony is very much into the e-girls.
No symmetrical girls, only real girls for Rhodey.
No symmetrical girls. That was
only real girls for Rhodey.
Well, that was. Do we want to get into Rhodey after or before? Because I had a question about Rhodey that's probably going to cause controversy.
We have Rhodey and we have Belle Delphine. We kind of did. Let's do Belle Delphine and then get back to Rhodey.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Well, yeah. Again, I mean,
I have strong feelings about Belle Delphine too.
Do you want to
speak first?
Because I've already kind of touched on her. I've mentioned Tony and how I feel about his attitudes towards women. Right. He is a very outwardly chat. Right. He's very good with women. He's very handsome, very charismatic. Yeah. He bangs a whole ton of them, so many that he can't even remember. He's not really fulfilled by it, which again I'm sort of on the fence. Like I really enjoy the like Conan kind of characters where they bang a whole bunch of e-girls and they don't get emo about it, right? They chop off a dude's head, then they bang the girl, then they chop off the girl's head, and then they go find more people to chop off.
I guess Conan lives in a different moral age, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, he does live in the past, but that kind of character I can appreciate. So I think, like, outwardly, I could still appreciate that sort of Tony character if he wasn't so emo in private. But I don't think Tony is truly a Conan, right? He's a Conan mask over a roadie core. But yeah, he winds up with this. How do you pronounce? Is it Moonji?
Moonji, yeah.
Moonji.
I just call her this bitch. So
I mean, she's fine. Like, she doesn't have much of a personality. She's like the femme fatale who just kind of shows up and she's hot. And what got me right at the begining was how quickly Tony fell head over heels in love with her, right? Like, I remember, because this is actually what I was asking Right Geek about pre-show, was whether she had some previous history with Tony, right? Whether she'd been in the comics before and like knew her, and like this was oh god, what the hell's her name? The ninja girl from Batman,
Kurai. No,
I don't know. The one that he sleeps with.
Talia al Ghul.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Like, maybe this is his femme fatale ninja girl that he's known for several years and they've had adventures. But no, apparently this is her very first appearance in the.
No, he has a girl like that, but it's not her.
Yeah, he does. Well, I mean, he had Pepper Potts for a little bit, and then she wound up fat. Unfortunately,
she wound up pleasantly plump.
Pleasantly plump, okay. Pleasantly plump, but also maybe happy. I don't know. She didn't seem super happy because,
she seemed okay. She was wistful about Tony, but I don't know. I read it as kind of like that melancholy. Oh, those were the high school days, running around with the boys. But
yeah, missing old Bo. But but yeah, no. This girl just kind of shows up out of nowhere.
I was saying that Tony does in fact have a femme fatale girl that pops up every once in a while. Whitney Frost, aka Madame Mask, is that character for him. Okay. But so it's not this girl. But okay, he does have
one of the other like 5,000 girls. right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many girls. I was expecting him to sleep with Clytemnestra as well at the end, which I would have actually liked. I liked her immensely. We can get into them later, I suppose. Um, but yeah, he falls head over heels in love with this girl. Almost immediately after
Literally
meeting her.
instantly.
Do we want spoilers, or do we want to just kind of run with this? How big of an idiot Tony is for
I think we're okay spoiling a 1980s comic. Yeah.
Okay, well, just to hop
Well,
ahead.
you can run with it too, and I have some thoughts on this as well.
Okay, well, I mean, I've kind of.
You speak first, and then I will speak.
That's the basic outline, right? Like, he meets this girl, he's never seen her before, and within like 5 pages, he's already risking life and limb, and like, oh, I can't live without her. Oh, I got to do everything I can to be with her. I'm gonna buy a bathwater on the internet and swim in it all day. It's. I mean, I've seen Tony do similar things in the past. Like, he is a very passionate man, but
the filling the room with flowers thing has happened at least one other time before.
Yeah, like he does that. I mean, he is rich, so that's kind of like treating a woman out to McDonald's for a normie.
Conspicuous display of wealth.
It doesn't really matter that much to him, but he is a romantic at heart. That's part of his Giga Chad personality. But Reiki,
I think he does. Well, he does stuff like that because I think fundamentally he's insecure that he won't be able to keep a woman if he doesn't put on those conspicuous displays of his wealth.
He's really insecure and he's overcompensating. He's that jock who's really swaggery, but on the inside,
yes, exactly.
Now I noticed this. I'm not as big of Iron Man. Reiki has introduced me to Iron Man, but when we read the very early Iron Man issues where he still had the chest plate, the gag was he would wine and dine these girls, but he can't let anyone see his chest plate because of his injured heart, right? Yeah. And I think that by this point they've explained that he doesn't have to have that giant chest plate on anymore, right? So he can be with a woman, but then in the really old issues, because of the superhero angle, he physically couldn't be with a woman, even though he was doing all of this wine and dining. So you kind of always knew it wasn't going to work out in the end, right? This is kind of playing on a similar thing of, does Tony ever want to close the deal with any woman? And when we get to like the evil reveal, her cuts into him because it's actually hitting him at something that he could really be sensitive about, which is that he uses his wealth as a way of wining and dining, but he's actually a little boy playing. He's a little boy playing pretend to being a knight. He's a little boy playing pretend at being a romantic. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, she is a real e-girl. Like, she is the girl on OnlyFans that works as, the femdom mistress who can get under the guy's skin.
You're gonna pull out your wallet and you're gonna give me all your money right now.
Yeah, she sees through him and she can cut him down to size. It's brutal.
Did I miss my chance to be a Findom e-girl?
No, actually, you can do that. That is something. All you have to do is find some somewhat believable pictures and pretend.
Oh, no. Oh, I don't even want to think about how many fake e-girls there are. Oh no.
I disavow catfishing as an e-girl, just to be clear, but it is an option, and it would be an option for her. Like, she's definitely that kind of mean femme fatale girl. That's the page where she really kills him.
Yeah,
right under his arm.
The most rage-inducing page in all of comics. Yeah. So this is at the end of number 167. And we have here Tony saying, I thought you loved me. Me? Love you? Don't you realize how impossible that is? And this is what they were just talking about here. Where's your wit, Tony? Your style, your taste? In your bank account, perhaps. Certainly no place else. What are you, Tony Stark? A glossy shell, a preening poser who hides his inadequacy behind a credit card sophistication. A petulant child with a minor talent for electronic tinkering and a quivering ego. And that is all. I was amused by you. I enjoy taking gifts from you and watching you pant after me like a puppy dog. But love you? It is astonishing even you can be so stupid.
So what was fun
you
had told me the story about reading this page and screaming "you bitch" at the page. So I had this memory
yes.
that Iron Man has severely emotionally affected the right geek to the point that she's completely invested in the story. And Belden is so good at just being like, oh, she's just girlfriend of the week, that it didn't occur to me that this was going to be the story where that big moment popped up. Like the surprise worked, even though Denny O'Neil did drop some clues. Like, of course there has to be. I even thought, he has a knight, a bishop, and a rook, so of course there's got to be a queen. And she's just such the Scooby-Doo in the background character, or I'm not even paying attention.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at her though. I mean, she's got the Betty Page bangs, and she's got that Snow Queen angle to her face, and she's got black hair. You know, she's got to be evil when she's got black hair. I mean, that just screams.
Well, and it was a funny foreigner thing. My English is not perfection. Oh, she's a cute, funny foreigner. Okay.
Where was she supposed to be from? Because that was actually something else that I was noticing. Like the racism against Irish people in the very first issue, and then it transitions to racism against Scots. Like 2 whole issues.
The thing I thought about that is racism is good. Right? Well,
black straight hair, yeah.
It's like every time we meet
hair, it's evil. Very evil.
So the Irish and Scottish thing, the obvious idea is like, oh, well, they're like IRA bombers, right? So that makes it hip and news relevant to have an Irish terrorist. And then, let's go meet a Scottish laird because Scottish lairds are cool. And of course, when we meet Scottish lairds, they always walk around in full kilt regalia because this is the idea is like the world is magic. Right. So when you go to interesting foreign countries, you always meet the most interesting people who are representatives of their culture. So if Tony Stark goes to Japan, of course, he'll go to Japan right when they're having the Cherry Blossom Festival. Or if Spider-Man...
You'll meet a samurai lord or a ninja or something, you know.
Right. And of course, they will have a samurai lord in modern Japan for some reason because that's just cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a samurai businessman, but he lives in an old samurai castle, and he likes to wear traditional garb. And I mean, just like all kidding aside, I'm actually okay with that. I thought it was, I think it's neat and charming because it does show distinct voices, right? Before they were colonized by the English.
Shorthand. It's like a shorthand that these artists use to indicate, now we're in another culture. Here's the shorthand, right? It's called
racism. The shorthand is called racism and problematic toxic behavior.
Did either of you see that? This was like a few months ago. Did either of you see that tweet from like a major university like professor talking about the famous Wolverine in Japan story and how this introduced a whole bunch of ideas? Oh no, this represented people in Japan as liking Bushido and honors. So, Wolverine represents whiteness.
But I mean, they used to before they were colonized by the West. I mean, that was the traditional Japanese idea.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
that's the thing that always gets me about those complaints is, yes, they are to a certain extent stereotypes, but have you actually proved ill intent in their being used? And have you actually proved that those stereotypes are not reflective of reality? Because I hate to say it, a lot of these stereotypes do reflect some aspect of reality in these cultures, right?
The drunk Scotsman was absolutely right. That was quite accurate.
And a drunk Irishman too.
Yeah. I'm an equal opportunity. I'm all equal opportunity about stereotypes. I love it when Americans show up in anime because they're always dressed up as cowboys or Elvis Presley. They're always scarfing down hot dogs and firing off guns for no reason.
Big, loud, and dumb. I mean, that is Americans. That is true. It's always accurate.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he shows up. I think Moomji, is she like Iranian or something? Did they ever resolve that? They say she's a member of the Daughters of Ishtar.
All right.
That shows up in any other comics or.
I don't know much about him.
She was basically and she was basically designed to be alluring, which halfway explains why
I mean that.
Tony
Well, I
fell
mean,
for her
I
so
think that
quickly.
fully explains. Like, I actually, a part of me didn't like that explanation, because she does say, "Hey, Martin, get away from the door." Sorry, my cat's trying to kick the door open and letting all the cool. No, Martin. Okay, Martin. Whatever. He's gonna either do it or not. I don't think he's worked out. I put a box in front of it, so he can't do it. What was I? Yeah. She does explain that she has. Well, first off, that she's really hot. When she's talking to Rhodey, she's like, "Well, I'm really hot, and I'm like a psych major, so I know how to work men. And oh, by the way, also I have like magical pheromone plant things that make men go completely excited for me, and they can't resist." So basically, she cheated, and she sprayed him with like poison ivy sex genes or something, and now all of a sudden, Tony. That's why Tony falls in love with her. And I mean, it explained it, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's why it happened. But honestly, I kind of liked it when it was dumber and didn't have an explanation, when it was just Tony being an idiot. Even though it reflected poorly on Tony, I think it made for a more interesting character story, because it made for a more dramatic flaw on his part, right? You know, if you get into Belle Delphine because you think that she's really cute and she's got a great smile and oh holy shit, like I want to buy the bathwater so bad. Oh god, like that's one thing. But if Belle Delphine shows up and like shoots you with a tranquilizer dart and then like pumps your blood full of like Belle bathwater, you turn into a zombie. You know, it's not quite as it's not quite as fun. I guess is what I'm saying.
I feel like sometimes comic writers have because comic readers are such nerds and want to pick apart everything, comic writers will want to come up with a proactive, here's the explanation for all you comic
scientific explanation or something. Yeah.
I agree with you. I like it better as a character flaw, because then it's Tony making a mistake that it probably wouldn't even occur to him would be a mistake. Oh, here's a nice, cute foreign girl. I'll buy her a whole bunch of flowers, and then it comes back to bite him later as he's struggling with the alcoholism, right? And it helps
right.
This almost like perfectly like the romantic plunge into darkness, because when you're in love, you just see how pretty they are and they can do no wrong, and then they stamp all over your heart and your world is destroyed. So.
Yeah, I know how that is. I mean, I will say that I think Rhodey does establish that the pheromones aren't foolproof. Rhodey be gone thoughts her a couple times. I don't know if you have those panels handy, but that
while admitting he feels the effects of it. Yeah.
I mean, he says he feels the effects, but he's able to resist them, which is where I get into questioning Rhodey. But it's possible that Tony wasn't fully pheromoned up, that it may have been at least, you know, partially, maybe like halfway or 3/4 Tony being a simp, rather than Tony being a bathwater zombie.
Yeah, I was about I want to add another layer to this, and that is some context from prior storylines, because Denny O'Neill's run starts pretty soon after Tony has his breakup with Beth, which really breaks him up. So it could be partially the pheromones, and also partially Tony is on the rebound, basically, and is really desperate for some human company. What?
Is she like reminiscent of Beth at all? Or?
No.
Okay.
But I think he's just really desperate for human company at this point.
Yeah, I mean that could work too, because I mean I know from personal experience that sometimes, like, if you have a bad breakup, you want to completely sever it and find the complete opposite, you know. So maybe that's what it is. It's like a super duper rebound. But I was wondering about Rhodey, because he does say that he kind of felt the effects, but he doesn't feel them. And then there's actually something like the very end of 173, which was the final thing that we were assigned. I think it might have even been the very last panel, where Tony gets imprisoned in West Philadelphia. Where
no, I thought the last panel we read was Tony drinks the cooking wine and runs away.
Yeah, that one.
This is the last page.
Rhodey reveals that he's the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right? He's in West Philadelphia, born and raised, and he imprisons Tony in his mom's house, and his mom has to look after Tony while Rhodey goes out and saves the day. But of course, his mom is unable to contend with Tony because comedy of errors or whatever, and Tony escapes. And the very last thing she says, do you guys have that?
Next time, I hope you bring home a gentleman. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That got me wondering. Right?
Yeah.
Like, is he perhaps a little gay? Is this something that they
don't give Marvel ideas?
No, I'm sorry. I don't want to bring this up because I don't want to give Marvel ideas. But is this an idea that they've floated that maybe he's a little happy on the side or something? Because it is implying that he's going to bring home a gentleman at some point, and Mum saying bring home. It's especially, and this is like 2 or 3 pages after he tells Belle Delphine to go take a hike twice. So I don't know.
I don't know enough about Rhodey. Actually, both of you probably know more about War Machine and Rhodey's character than I do. So this is you two. You two have the nerd debate.
Catcom too. I can tell you so many comments. Punchy, no, yeah. Sorry, that's why I didn't bring it up earlier. But it's just
when I read it, I thought, that's gay. But then I thought, well, what it's saying is that Tony is so fallen that even his buddy's mom thinks he's not a gentleman anymore.
I mean, I think that might be what it is. Yeah. But there were several panels that I think could have worked with Super Dickory. I think it was another thing with Rhodey where he was talking about like, here, hold this or something like. What was it, the Antifa guy when he was fighting Mr. Antifa Man? Or was it a different fight?
I don't know.
It may have been Mad.
Captures from that issue, but they're mostly Captain America focused.
I think it was the Magma.
I do want to talk about Captain America at some point, but
there was
Captain America again entering to be everybody's dad, everybody's big brother.
Yes.
Yeah, the Captain America one was pretty good.
I'm really interested to go find the Avengers issue he referenced, because Captain America references arguing with Tony or something. So just like a nice, that's cool. Go get the Avengers, kids, to see how this ties in with the rest of the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Antifa guy disrespecting Captain America, calling him an establishment pig.
I actually have responses from Avengers comics here. Yeah. So yeah, and that the fact that the Avengers comics that were going on at the same time acknowledge this is so great, because in modern day Marvel comics, basically everyone is doing whatever the hell they want to without any thought to continuity between the lines, right? But here, the Avengers editor is clearly saying, well, Tony's getting drunk off his ass in the Iron Man comics, so we need to address that in the Avengers comics. So this is the argument that they're referencing here. So, all right, Tony, let's have some answers. Who the blazes is that wearing your armor?
Yeah, this is after he figured it out, right?
Yeah. This is after they knew. Yeah. This is Avengers 232. They find out Tony is Iron Man in 216. So.
Okay.
What's really wild about this is I never read Iron Man as a kid, but I did read Avengers books as a kid, which means if you're just reading Avengers books, you get it in your head that, Tony's getting drunk and a new guy is taking over the Iron Man suit. If you follow any one book of the Marvel universe at this point, you are getting the hints of every other main character. in the Marvel universe. It's great advertising.
Yeah. Gets you interested. And you're like, oh god, now I got to buy the Iron Man things to figure out what the hell's going on, kind of thing. That's a good point. I think I found the other gay scene. Was in issue 166, page 8. He says it'll touch a human being unless I touch it, and then he goes and he touches the man. But yeah, that might just be me. I'm probably just imagining things. I really don't want to give. Really don't want to give my.
The problem is when you,
or he's so straight. He's so straight. He says these things without even realizing they sound gay because that's how straight he is. Gayness never enters into his mind.
Yeah, he's so secure.
The problem with the gay theory for Rhodey is that fairly recently he was dating Captain Marvel. So,
well, he's definitely gay then. Sorry, that's confirmed.
And there's things in the comics that hint at Tony being gay too. So, I think we discussed that in a previous stream.
Yeah.
Yeah. E-girls turned me gay in Iron Man story. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the scene they were referencing, where the Wasp and Captain America confront him, and Tony basically says, "Yeah, I'm quitting," and he's there drinking in front of them. And Captain America's like, "Don't you think you've had enough of that?" "No, I don't, and I'll thank you not to butt into my private life." Right? Yeah. So, yeah, that's what they were referring to. I did have captures of that.
Yeah, and then you get this sense that he's being kind of a jerk, and you're like, hey, why is he being such an arse-bag to Captain America? Oh, God, I got to read Iron Man now. So.
Yeah. And here's in 233, right? This is 233. Yeah, in 233, this is Captain America being really broken up about this. In a way, it's Avengers business. I don't know what bothers me more, that Tony Stark has quit the Avengers and turned over his Iron Man identity to another man, or that he appeared determined to drink himself unconscious. So through a lot of the Avengers comics in this same period, we're seeing the reactions, which I just like. And speaking of Captain America is the major guest star of 172.
You got the Twin Towers scene. Oh God, sorry, I just recognized that.
I'm a millennial too, so that stood out to me as well. Yeah.
And that was right after a panel of a guy falling to his death. That was horrible. I firmly disavow that.
You firmly disavow that.
Now the only question is Marvel Comics being used to secretly warn people about it as part of a conspiracy?
Is that predictive programming? Yes. Illuminati confirmed. That is a good question. And actually, I was thinking about that when they brought up the Sisters of Ishtar, which is one of the reasons why I was wondering if they showed up in any other comics or anything. Because, Ishtar is a major figure, particularly in the 80s, right? Because she was really popular as a goddess in like the New Age hippie feminist movement of the 60s and 70s. So, it was probably nothing, but I wasn't sure if it was like a direct reference to the occult or what it was. But you guys don't know if there were any.
I don't know much about the real Ishtar. Is one of those characters where I always hear in TV and movies the cult of Ishtar, and I think, oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah. I mean, that might have just been what it was. It was just it was a cool name that they wanted to put in, because there are like Ishtar was a real character. Like she was a real Sumerian goddess or something, Mesopotamian goddess, but it didn't seem like it was getting really into Ishtar. So I think it was just it sounded cool. They put it in there. But she's related to like Persephone. Like Loki and Balder, like that whole whatever the hell that story is of the descent into the underworld.
Okay, so Persephone, I know Persephone. She eats the pomegranate seeds. She eats 6 pomegranate seeds, so she has to spend 6 months in Hades, but then she gets to spend 6 months in the overworld, and that's why there's spring, right?
Yeah, it's that story of like the hero or the heroine who goes down to the underworld and has to dwell in the underworld for a period of time and then can come back up to the overworld. So like I was wondering too, like if that might have been some kind of allusion to Tony's alcoholism, like Tony falling into the underworld during the course of the show, like Tony as Balder, right? Like he's probably not Persephone because he's not a chick. Although he is kind of chicky in that panel, the Captain America carrying Tony Stark out. But like a Balder character where he dies, or the Tunella story or something, where he dies and then he has to bring himself back out of hell, like Orpheus or something. Maybe War Machine is Orpheus or something, but I don't know. You guys don't know if Ishtar shows up in any of the other things, or
sorry, I haven't encountered them.
I don't have any strong memories. No.
Yeah, this could just be me deconstructing it then, but that's my theory. That's my bare framework of a theory, is that this is some kind of really clever allusion to ancient classical myth, and Tony being cast in this role as like a Persephone, where he has to journey to the underworld.
Now, if it's true that Ishtar was worshipped by like certain feminists, that would be a great angle because it's a femme fatale. So
yeah, well, that's why I was thinking like there's probably more to it, because it was an all women group of like crazy lesbo sex pots or something, So it seemed really fetishy and seemed really kind of like the Wonder Woman school of feminism kind of thing.
Well, but that's Freud would have a field day with Wonder Woman.
Well, I mean,
that's for sure.
You guys know the backstory of.
Weird. He had like weird. He wanted like a threesome with like his. It was his wife, him, and I don't know who the third lady was. Yeah, and then all of his like fetishes show up in the Wonder Woman comic. Yeah.
He was the guy that invented the lie detector test.
That's it. Yeah.
Which doesn't work, by the way. It's all bunk and pseudoscience, but they still use it because juries don't know it doesn't work. But yeah,
and you can use it to deceive a person, right? Like if a person is nervous about a lie detector test, maybe you can fake them out into telling it we're going to attach you to a lie detector. So tell us the truth.
Have you guys ever seen? Was it The Wire? I think it was The Wire, where they said they were going to hook the guy up to a lie detector test, but it was just what is it? A photocopier, and they printed the word like lie on it, and they put it through the photocopier. So they're like, "Hey, did you do the crime?" And he's like, "No." And then the photocopier comes out lie, and they're like, "Hey, look, the lie detector says it's a lie." And then he's admitting to his crime because he's like, "Oh man, that's bullshit. I didn't mean."
I haven't seen that scene, but the basic rule of any cop's scenario is I want a lawyer. Every single lawyer tells their kid, ask for a lawyer. Every single cop tells their kid, ask for a lawyer.
Yeah. Or get a really cool costume and fly around blasting everything with fireballs so that only the superheroes can touch you. Yeah. That's another idea. So yeah, Antifa the firebrand and the feminist lesbo sexpot Ishtar cultists. That was definitely because it was popular in like new age circles, like in the 60s and 70s when they had that popularized the cult groups or whatever. Ishtar was one of these goddesses that everybody was kind of into.
The Age of Aquarius.
Yeah, the Age of Aquarius, that kind of stuff. Which you still see references to that. Unfortunately, but I don't know. Tony Stark is Persephone, I guess, is what I'm trying to get across.
So what I'm displaying now is the cover for 172. This is a cover for 172. The sense that I get is that it's somewhat infamous. And maybe that's because in the early 2000s I spent too much time on Tumblr. Because a lot of people interpret that as
like Chicky.
Huh?
Is that because he's being carried by like femininity? Like, yeah, okay. So it's not just me then getting the like dead Greek heroine idea out of that.
Yeah.
The Tumblr corrupts everything.
But also the gee, that's pretty gay too, is the impression that a lot of people get. So yeah. As Marm was saying, in 172, we call Captain America in because Captain America is everybody's dad, right? And it starts off with the armor thing. Yeah.
The germ of the idea that's copyright me, by the way, Charlemagne the Mutant. That's going to be my comment. Nobody steal it.
Okay. Tony gets arrested because he's drunk and he put this armor on.
Yeah, and look at all the white stuff all over his face. What's up with all the white stuff?
I think that's just supposed to be like profuse sweat.
Yeah,
and limited color palette
too. But
maybe he tried to do the egg yolk and flour thing that Rhodey tried to do
for no reason, just because he's drunk.
I'll disguise myself as a white man and break into the museum.
I'll disguise myself as a French person. They're white, right? Yeah, that's
the white face thing to escape. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go with that. That makes a bit more sense.
Yeah. Tumblr to everything, gay. Yeah, pretty much.
I always think of Super Dickory, like the old Super Dickory blog, which I know I've plugged before.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tumblr was pretty bad with that too.
Yeah, so he gets arrested and then he gets bailed out, of course, because he still has money. And and when he gets let out of jail, he gets immediately confronted by the paparazzi,
I like the detail where the taxi driver asks him where to, and he has to like gradually admit to the nearest liquor store, right?
Yeah.
Like we're really kicking Tony while he's dead. And we've been doing it for a couple issues now.
That's good dramatic pacing right there. You really get that sense. He's ramping it up. Tony doesn't want to say it, but the guy's, hey, come on, Mac. I don't have all day. Speak up. And
I don't have all day. I gotta make some money. Yeah.
Yeah. That is a defeated Tony Stark right there. You really get that idea.
Yeah. And then this introduces the problem of the issue, right? Which is that we need Tony Stark's signature to stop. We need Tony Stark's signature to stop Stain from stealing the company, right?
High octane bookkeeping
somebody has
action.
to go. Yeah. So then Rhodey's like, well, I guess I gotta get Captain America because Captain America is everyone's dad. But also Captain America happens to be. I've said this a lot of times in previous streams. Captain America is Tony's best friend, at least in the superhero world, right? So it isn't just Captain America is everybody's dad. It's also Captain America happens to be a very good friend of Tony's, right?
Another thing Civil War took from us is, they were always in Avengers continuity. They're butting heads, right? Because they're the two presumptive leaders of the Avengers. So it's like Michelangelo,
right?
Is that right? No, it's like it's Raphael and Leonardo butting heads for leadership of the Turtles. Two men with a shared dream who sharpen one another.
Yeah. Eden's asking Super Dickory.
The thing is, though, in those early Avengers.
So he does real quick. Evie, it's Super Dickory.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know exactly where to point.
Yeah, it's a blog. It's like superdickory.com or something. It's pretty terrible now. Like it's been awful the last several years I've bothered to check. But back in like the early 2000s, it used to host a lot of like seduction of the innocent panels, like weird out of context and funny superhero panels from like the golden and the silver ages. Usually that, you know, are suggestive or violent or just surreal. Yeah, cursed. It's basically like cursed images, like cursed comic book images from the early 2000s. And nowadays, it's mostly just like a wokey complaining about like where are her organs? Why are her boobs so big? Why is this guy's arm shaped like that?
Complaining about Rob Liefeld for the 100th time.
Yeah, Rob Liefeld kind of pap. But if you can find like I don't know, maybe I'll post a link on. I'll see if I can find a link on Twitter later, but I'll post it up. So it's fun if you like cursed images.
But going back to Marm saying another thing that Civil War took from us, it is in fact the case that in the prior to Civil War comics, there were a number of times where in which Tony and Steve would butt heads with each other and disagree with each other because, as you say, they're both sort of presumptive leaders of the superhero group, and they have slightly different ideas on how best to do that, and they do argue with each other. But the difference, and we talked about this in the Civil War stream too, is that in those early comics, there was still always that undercurrent of mutual respect, right? They disagreed with each other, they butted heads, but they still loved each other in a he's my war buddy sort of way, right? And they still realized that the other one, the other guy with the opposing opinion still had the best interests of mankind in mind, essentially. Well, their heart was in the right place, even if they disagreed exactly with how they were going about things, right? And that, and we complained about this in the Civil War stream. One of the problems with at least the main Civil War book is that it seems like they both sort of lost, like both of those characters sort of lost their understanding, their apprehension of the other character, and that the other character is in fact a well-meaning person that just has a slightly different perspective on the world, right? But this is still a comic like this is still firmly in the era where we have heroes that have different perspectives on the world, that do butt heads on occasion, that have their moments of tension and their arguments, but in the end, they're still battle buddies. They still love each other and they still respect each other, right? Okay, so we have Captain America. He's looking. Yeah. We have Captain America. He's looking for Tony in the Bowery. Basically a bad neighborhood, right? And this is one of those scenes where they have conflict between the two of them, but it's a conflict that's being driven by Steve's love for this man, right? This is my battle buddy, this is my friend, and he's currently ruining himself, and that's why I'm so pissed off with him. I want to beat him senseless, right? And it's this whole scene, I love it so much. It's so well done. And this
it also catches you. It catches you up if you haven't read the Avengers issue. Cap's internal monologue, basically, without me going and finding the issue, told me everything I needed to know about what Cap's doing here, and I can infer what I missed.
Right. Yeah. So was this Punchy? You were the one that were sharing clips of this, right, on Twitter?
Yeah. Well, I was sharing it completely out of context and missing it.
Yeah.
I was subverting it and doing a détournement where I was completely changing the meaning of the text to suit my own nefarious purposes. But yeah, I was using clips from this because it is a good speech, but his meaning was completely opposite of what I was meaning. So
what you were saying, yeah. You're an intelligent man. You must know what you're doing to yourself. You must realize that you're destroying yourself with every single drop of that stuff you drink. You have everything, man. You own your own company. You have plenty of money. You're an electronics genius. Uh-huh. Women find you attractive. You're respected in the community. You have a brilliant future ahead of you. And I find you here at a rundown hotel in the worst section of the city, swilling cheap liquor, wrecking your life. And I want to know why. Yeah, real genuine emotion here that that modern comics have basically robbed us of, at least recently, and at least between these two characters, right?
Well, we did have a sociopathic teenager stab a guy in the neck. Don't forget that. That was something.
Because again, he's like pissed off, and on the next page, he actually punches Tony. But it's all coming from a place of love, right?
Yeah, it's a bro punch.
A place of love and frustration, right? Yeah, so here's where he hauls off and hits him. Yeah, so...
I was going to post that one, too, because that was my favorite.
Yes.
Punch a drunk.
Well, I mean, he kind of slaps him or something. Slaps the bottle out of his hand and catches him on the chin.
Slaps him, slaps the bottle out of his hand. Or you'll do what?
Good
Beat me up?
for people.
Yeah. Yeah, so Captain America hits him and makes him cry, but it's just because he's just so frustrated and he has so much emotional investment in this man, right? Can't stand to watch him destroy himself. And it really lines up with what the reader feels at this moment too. Like me as a reader reading this for the first, second, third, fourth, fifth time, right? I always feel I understand exactly where Cap is coming from, and I feel those same emotions with him, right?
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, modern comics just don't really get this kind of emotional depth. They don't get into this kind of emotional depth anymore.
To contrast it with Chris Cantwell, right? So in Chris Cantwell, we had kind of like a broken down, beaten down.
You gotta call him by the right name. Christopher can't write well.
Can't write well. Yeah. All right. So in that, like, we also have Iron Man at a low, but it's the amazing feminist Wildcat who basically comes in and takes over the series for some reason and sort of forces Iron Man to get himself together. Whereas
rapping as gangster.
Yeah. In this, Tony's agency, even when he's low, is at play. I contrasted this with that Superman series that came out. So Superman recently was in a series where it's heavily implied he was sexually assaulted and he's traumatized by this. And my criticism of that is that A, it's not appropriate for a child's character like Superman, and B, it doesn't have anything to do with the sort of traditional hero story where you kick the hero down so that they can rise up. In the reason that Tony has been kicked down is that Tony is deliberately throwing himself into alcoholism full force now. So even at his lowest, Tony's agency has brought him here. We're anticipating that Tony is going to heroically rise out of this and become the hero again. Right. So it's not destroying the hero for the purpose of saying, haha, look at what I've destroyed, kids. It's pushing the hero down for the sake of we're anticipating it. Captain America is urging him to it. Rhodey is expecting Tony Stark to come back. The other characters are anticipating the hero's rise back to I don't know, the Ubermensch or the getting the chaos in order, like the lobsters do, that stuff.
Yeah.
The Nietzsche and Tony Stark. I mean, he's asking about the Hellcat.
Get your bloody life in order and clean your room.
The Hellcat thing is the one where she looks like a man and says Iron Man's privileged, right? I think so.
And then magically takes over his series. Yeah, Tony Stark disappears from existence, and Iron Man suddenly becomes all about Wildcat. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Punchy. I mean, everybody here has seen Punchy, right? Like you guys all get the Punchy meme.
I don't know the Punchy meme. No.
Oh, okay. Look up Punchy at some. Oh, really? Okay, well, it's a Simpsons meme from way back in the day, but it's very popular with millennial nerds, I guess. But if you look it up sometime, it's the Itchy and Scratchy show, which is the ultraviolet cartoon show in the Evie remembers Poochie.
Oh yeah,
it's basically the ultraviolet TV show that's always like a stand-in for the Simpsons and weird comic media in general. And they decide to revamp it by bringing in a character called Punchy, who's a gangster, rasta, rapper, heavy metal surfer dude dog or something like that. And he's completely over the top and in your face, and he gets busy. He's workshopped by corporate basically to be the new focus of everything, and he's a complete Mary Sue, and everybody winds up hating him. So they wind up killing him off unceremoniously. Like Homer Simpson's brought in as the voice actor, so they invested in the story of Poochie. But then it doesn't go over well, and everybody hates him, and he dies on the way back to his home planet. So it's a fun episode to see it. But if anybody ever, the '90s cool character, if you ever get a chance to check it out, he's the archetype of like self-aware bad Mary Sue inserts that corporations like to into established properties to try and revamp them, and it just doesn't work. So yeah, I get the sense that's kind of the Hellcat thing, but this does work though. This kind of stuff with this is the anti-Poochie. War Machine and Captain America coming in here. This is like the anti-Poochie stuff. It's how you get away with it. But I was
just being
a Marmaduke.
Just being sincere and giving a damn.
Yeah, that goes a long way. Take notes, Marvel, if you're watching. But Marmaduke, I was going to ask because I'm not really a Superman fan again, so I haven't really been following the drama with sexual assault gate, Me Tooing Superman. But I was going to ask if there's ever been is it just that rape itself is unacceptable for comics, or has there ever been a story where a hero or a heroine can be raped and then it's actually good? But then I was thinking maybe Berserk, right? Like
right. Berserk, I feel it fits tonally. So for me, it's like asking if a superhero, you could write a story where a superhero gets raped. That's like asking me, is there a story where Donald Duck can get raped? That's how I want writers to think about superheroes. Yeah. Now, you could write Berserk is almost a perfect example where I think sexual assault is used basically as the beginning of a character's arc, where that sexual assault haunts that character for the rest of his life and defines that character and his struggle to overcome it. Right? A talented writer could do that with a superhero and do the story well, but even when doing it well, it's still, I feel like, a misuse of what a superhero kid's character is supposed to be. I've occasionally seen, maybe like here or there, stories about it with superheroes that would hint at this stuff, or, maybe they'd symbolically have something like that. There's like a weird one where the Avengers, who was it? Was it Captain Marvel? One of the Avengers got like impregnated by some evil space alien.
Yes, right? that was Carol Danvers.
Yeah. And so it's weird because of the sci-fi element, and then the head fake at the end is that they all thought they were all acting like, well, this is just the weird thing of the week, and she was genuinely traumatized by it, right? So immediately that's playing games with the reader, right? Where the reader thinks that the writer's just doing something goofy with space aliens that doesn't matter, and then the characters react to it as humans would if you put them in this horrendous situation, right? I can't think of any examples in superhero comics where I thought that needed to happen or that helped the story by its presence.
Well, I was going to ask,
what about the Killing Joke? Because that has some sadomasochistic undertones to it.
And the women in refrigerators thing. Those two I remember were very controversial with like feminist critiques of comics.
Yep.
What would you say about those?
I think the feminists are right, but for the wrong reasons. So for the feminists, it's about being mad because a female character got hurt or assaulted or killed. And then the reasoning is, well, this is just being done to motivate the man in the man's story. So then the problem with that is you now have writers who are afraid to do anything bad to a female character, but have no problem putting male characters.
Yeah, because that happened to male characters a lot, even before like the Killing Joke and women in refrigerators. Like you'd have guys in.
Well, and the other thing is Killing Joke itself, with Commissioner Gordon, had some definite sadomasochistic undertones with him. So it's not like the woman was the only one being abused in that comic.
Her father is So I would hold up the Killing Joke as that is a well-written story. It's a well-written story with an R-rated Joker. I don't like the trend of R-rated Joker, period, but I will grant that that's Alan Moore writing it well. Mm-hmm. And so then it's not fair to bang him for hurting Barbara in that story. Right. So basically it's a question of what tone do comics want to have? If comics do want to go in the direction of we're going to do dark and mature stories, well, better to have well-written dark and mature stories than badly written dark and mature stories. So I'd say, Killing Joke fits that. And my argument is kind of, well, why do super dark and mature stories with Donald Duck? Right.
Yeah.
Maybe you could.
Based as hell. I'd go for that. Dark, edgy reboot of Donald Duck. Let's make it happen.
What did they do to my Daisy?
No, even better. Let's do DuckTales, like a DuckTales reboot. But now he's basically like a crazy, billionaire axe murderer or something, right? Like American Psycho meets DuckTales. That'd be awesome. And Donald comes in as like the PTSD veteran, like he's all Punishered out, and we could make it happen. But yeah, I think I get the idea. I mean, so basically, like Berserk works because it's its own, like it's not a superhero manga. It's edgy, teenage,
dark fantasy,
dark fantasy with a cool sword kind of thing. So if Guts was running around in a cape in spandex, it wouldn't work, right?
Imagine if they hired Kentaro Miura to do like Dragon Ball, right? And Dragon Ball has a very 12-year-old target audience. And then he decided to bring the rape into Dragon Ball. That would be harmful. That would not work because Dragon Ball was
Goku's better than Superman because he's never been raped. That's my I guess I can see it. Well, I don't know, with Japanese stuff.
I'm sitting here thinking
anyway, but
yeah, I was gonna say that I'm sitting here thinking since Winnie the Pooh is now in public domain, let's do Winnie the Pooh as if written by Alan Moore.
No, Evie, no, go away.
Scientifically accurate.
You're bad. No. You guys don't get that, do you?
I know that reference. Yeah.
Okay.
ADHD music videos. Those were the bomb back in the day.
That's horrible.
A hot take would be whether scientifically accurate music videos was that a contributing factor to the science becoming a worshipped thing.
Well, that was something that I really wanted to get into at some point. Like we were going to get into it earlier because that was an earlier part of the episode, but we're all over the place. But this love of the science, which I know is something that is actually relevant to Iron Man because he is a science guy who loves the science. But I noticed that some of my favorite characters in this run actually were the science geeks that showed up. The what was it? Morley Irwin and his sister, who I absolutely loved. wish she would have shown up as, you know, like a new Iron Man or something in current year, because she was pretty spunky and cool. You guys know what I'm talking about, like all the secondary characters that were like helping,
like the nerdy guy helping Rhodey figure out how to use the armor, right?
Yeah. Like they're all on the hero's journey together with Rhodey, right?
Yeah.
Like the new team, the new X-Men team who's showing up to try and.
Okay, does the cute nerdy girl in the Thunderball issue, does she ever show up again? Because I like the angle where she's being flirty, but inside she's really thinking Thunderball is just a big fat loser, and she only wants to be there to try to stop him from doing more damage and secretly giving Rhodey hints. I don't know. Like I never know. Is it like, oh, it's a one-time thing, or is it, oh, they're introducing a brand new character who's going to be here forever?
I'd like to see more of her. Does well? Actually, you know what? Don't tell us. We'll
find out.
As we go on. But I would just like to go on record by saying that she can be my nerdy waifu for this episode at the very least. And actually, that was something else I was wondering. Do you guys know, like, is this Morley guy? Does he show up more than once? Because I'm wondering if he's a reference to Edward Morley.
Because I don't know.
Because when I read it, like, I was like, that name sounds really familiar, and the only thing I can think, like Morley Edwin. I was like, what the hell? Where have I heard that before? And the only thing I can think is there was this science guy called Edward Morley. But he's not a super famous science guy. I'm wondering if there was maybe somebody else I was thinking of besides Edward Morley. But do you guys have any idea whom he might be a reference to if it wasn't Edward Morley?
No, I do not.
Okay, because
I haven't really thought about that kind of thing.
Morley's main thing was he was the guy who disproved the theory of ether, right? Like the idea that there's fluid in outer space or whatever. And he also discovered the scientific weight of oxygen, I think, which I was thinking like the big oxygen tank in that issue, you know, how that oxygen tank is like a centerpiece for Rhodey's plan to blow up magma. I was like, hey, maybe that is a reference to Edward Morley. Like Morley Edwin is Edward Morley backwards or something. But I don't know if there was more to it than that. Or what was there any other info on him? Because I couldn't find anything about him on the Marvel database. There's some things like biblically accurate angels and historically accurate. Yeah. Reddit's and I enjoy
the occasional biblically accurate angels meme, but
yeah, well, I like the biblically accurate angels meme in the C.S. Lewis books. Those were actually quite good.
Yeah.
But I was also wondering about Thunderball, whether he was a reference to the Demon Core experiment with this giant Asgardian Thunderball thing that he's carrying around. Do you guys know anything about that either? I'm not familiar with him at all.
No.
I think he's a member of the Thunderbolts, which were like a group of like three. Marvel did a thing where they had like three ex-con villains get together and kind of be anti-heroes. So I'm pretty sure he's one of those guys. And I only know him of like maybe like once in a while he'd show up as a guest villain in Spider-Man or Avengers or something. And this feels like, what's weird about this is this feels like he has a prehistory with some of these characters, but it kind of feels like an introduction, like he's introducing himself.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if this was like the middle of something or the beginning of something. And again, I was wondering if this was another one of those like science reference memes, because it seems like Denny. I mean, if that is a Morley reference, I mean it's a somewhat obscure reference. So it seems like he really does genuinely like the science, and not just as a sort of normie pretending to like the science, because that's what current year expects you to do, right? Like he seems like a genuine nerd.
But he loves himself some clever systems of counterweights as well.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. I was like, yeah, this probably is a genuine geek. Like he probably does have, like a telescope in his house somewhere, and a book of maths on his bookshelf just for fun. And again, the Thunderbolt guy, because I read some of his backstory, and it said he was a gamma radiation specialist, which was one of the reasons why I was wondering if it was a direct reference to the Demon Core plutonium sphere thing that was involved in that really infamous radiation poisoning event where they blew up the atomic bomb almost and killed a bunch of scientists. But
ouch.
There's
the real world tragedy intruding into our Iron Man series.
I was like, oh god, is this guy like a reference to the Los Alamos Demon Core disaster? But did you guys ever hear about that one? Because that was fun. I mean, not fun, but it was.
Yeah, like as per usual, Punchy, you live on air radically introduce us to shocking and tragic events in American history. Yeah.
No, well, because I was thinking that like Thunderbolt might be a reference to that. It's the one where they had the atomic bomb core that was going to be dropped on Japan, but Japan surrendered before they could drop it on them.
So you thought because is the word Thunderbolt in relation to nuclear energy at all?
Well, possibly, because again, it's this big sphere. Because Thunderbolt uses this big ball, right? A ball and chain, which could be a reference to slavery. But it also looks remarkably like this core from the nuclear bomb that was used at Los Alamos to test criticality.
The one weird thing with your theory is he says it's magic, so he doesn't say like it's powered by gamma rays.
That's true, but again, I checked the Marvel database, and his backstory is he's Science Man. He's Science Man who winds up getting like blasted and turned magic by some magic or something like
that might the second you said gamma rays at that, I bet he got introduced in a Hulk issue. I want to go test that right now.
Apparently he's an enemy of Hulk's. Like he's the evil black counterpart, problematic black counterpart of Hulk's. He's also a very angry, very physical science geek who, except instead of hulking out, he just swings around this Asgardian Mjolnir demon core thing. But I don't know. I don't know anything about him besides what I've researched in the last couple of days. So if anybody knows anything about this character, feel free to chime in.
I wasn't really thinking so much about that character. I was thinking about that in that issue. It was another example of Rhodey. Rhodey was being forced to get used to the armor, and he didn't understand everything about it. Like he had to be, he had to be told. Yeah, he had to be told that it's starting to not work because you're running out. It's sucking out your power, right? Mm-hmm. They had to throw him hints that that's what was going on, right?
Was that with the Morse code?
Yeah.
Clytemnestra coming in with the Morse code idea, like that I thought was really clever, because again, in current year, there's this idea that you bring in the girl who loves the science, right? Like everybody knows this idea. Yeah. Like Zach has done this; he's running into the ground. I don't think we have to get too much into girls loving the science. But usually when the girls love the science, they show up and they are brilliant at everything, and everybody loves them, and they're total Punchy characters. Whereas in this, right, like she's introduced gradually, and her stakes are smaller than the heroes, but they're still pretty big, and she's shown as competent, and she comes up with the plan that saves the day, and it seems like a simple plan, but it's a really good one. And at the end, you're rooting for it. Like, I want to see more of this. I want to see her turn into, like Ms. Marvel or something one of these days. And go for it, Clytemnestra. But women in STEM PM. Like if more women in STEM stories were like this, right? Like that would be good thing.
Yeah.
And it's weird too because again, was this written in 1983 or was this written in the current year? Because women were never into
I was written in
science.
1983.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it couldn't have been because women were never into science before the current year. That's something completely new.
Sorry,
It's like a St. Mike sketch where he says every girl in elementary school would have a teacher shake them and say, "No, you can't do math because you're a girl."
Yeah,
That's every schoolgirl's experience in America.
every last one of them for the current year. So, I don't know. She was good though. I liked her. It's too bad that Thunderball had to be on the receiving end of it, but someone's got to be.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying. Like that issue was a good example of what I was talking about when I said the learning curve. Instead of the modern replacement heroes that are automatically awesome and can do no wrong, Rhodey is someone who has to grow into the role in his own way. And like I said, there are still things that he doesn't know about the armor, even by the end, right? Because he's a military guy. He's just he's not an electronics genius. He's intelligent. He's smart, but he's not Tony Stark, right? And they continue to make him the distinct character in this role.
Hey, sorry, did you guys hear that? Oh,
But the rustling sound?
okay, it was just right.
Yeah, a little bit, but it was fine.
The cat's trying to get at my microphone, and he's purring into it, and he's rubbing against it like he's oh, okay, yeah. He's stopped now, but
okay, one of my cats has left the room, but the other one is still kind of in here. They sort of woke up. Hopefully, they won't be disruptive quite yet.
oh god, not woke cats. Those are the worst. Oh yeah, and well, one thing I have on my notes next is because Marmaduke actually already touched on this, but when we get the big reveal of because we haven't really gone into Stain yet, have we?
No, I did want to come to Stain actually. Like,
no, we haven't that much. Other than nitpicking the chessboard, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean that chessboard thing was. I could go on for hours about that one. Oh, and there was the priest too, right? Because I know just real quick, because I know this is many people listening to this are Christians and people of faith, but I was quite impressed by all the religious allegories and memes they managed to pack into like a 4-page fight with a bishop.
right, like language fit. There was this neat thing where he's talking about the master, but the master isn't God. The master is the master of the evil cat.
And he's talking about the lamb won't save you. Like he's trying to hide with the sheep, and the priest comes down, and the baptismal imagery, which again kind of mirrors the previous stream where he's drowning.
Even looking at this through like atheist lenses, even like mind control being the priest's power, right? He pacifies Tony with the opiate of the masses, but it doesn't feel offensive to me because there are a couple like moments I noticed actually. So Tony has the line, "Well, I'm not too religious," right?
Yeah, that was
a character building thing because it's not an antagonistic like fedora comment. It's just kind of like an obvious comment that the billionaire playboy isn't the most I don't know
yeah, well, I
actually
don't.
Yeah. Canonically, he is an atheist, but yeah, he's not. He's like he's funny though because he's an atheist who believes in hell and works with the Norse thunder god.
Right.
So
yeah, well, I mean, those are things that he's actually because isn't hell like superhero characters come from there, and supervillains actually physically go there at times.
Right, and it's run by
Yeah.
Mephisto, which
Yeah.
I think is a reference to
Yeah.
Faust.
And I mean, Thor's obviously a real dude. You know, Asgard's a real thing. Thunderball has his ghetto Mjolnir ball thing, which is from Asgard. So yeah, I could see him thinking.
I think Tony also has the line, "I'm pretty sure you're not a real clergy," or right. So it's ridiculous enough that it feels like lampshade. It feels goofy because it's an evil villain who dresses up as a bishop from chess, but it's not a commentary on religion. So it's almost like you can get away with some religious iconography and symbolism with a character like that.
They have some symbolism, but it's not like, you know, oh, religious people are all stupid, or you know, hey, atheists are all stupid, or anything like that, right? It's just it's a neat little reference that they threw in there. And I was actually thinking like the I'm not too religious comment. Like I was thinking like that would never fly today, just because it seems too religious, right? Like you'd never have a character like, well, I'm okay with religion. They'd have to be really snotty or not even acknowledge it at all. So yeah,
I had a couple thoughts about Obadiah Stane. So I think one thing that works about him is he's the classic, you know, shadowy villain, maniacally playing chess to prove how smart he is. I think at one point Tony read a newspaper and said he made his first million at age 25. He beat me by almost a year, right? A really nice little thing where Stane got richer than Tony faster, to hint that he's, you know, probably like an equal to Tony Stark as an intellectual, you know, energetic businessman. He does some things like, you know, wear his coats swoosh his coat dramatically over his shoulder and laugh maniacally in his outfit. But I think he works because he's competent. He has all of the classic goofy tropes of the comic book supervillain. Like, he doesn't want to kill Tony because that wouldn't be fun. You know, he wants to defeat Tony properly. But then twists like the reveal of the Queen and successfully taking over Tony Stark's company, the little nudge of leaving him the bottle as a surprise, and him telling him before that, I'm going to leave you with surprises, and one of them you might actually like. He feels sadistic and he feels competent in the game he plays with Tony, so he gets away with the, you know, scenery chewing, maniacal laughter stuff because he actually can follow up on it.
Right. I believe, and I don't think I'm alone in this opinion, that Obadiah Stane is in fact Tony's best supervillain in all of Iron Man canon.
Yeah. You like
and the way
Peter Cushing, totally not Peter Cushing, Justin Hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was quite good too. I was wondering, is he a reference to Colonel Kurtz? Like his whole get up and everything.
Well, now we got
because that was my impression. Like, he was doing like a Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now kind of thing, like real flamboyant cult leader. I was thinking, like, if I ever become a maniacal billionaire, I'd love to get up like that and just walk around with like.
Well, it's the right era, right? If it's a 1979 film and these are 1980s comics, then you could definitely be within their cultural frame of reference. And it actually did kind of stand out to me that Comic Stane has like this very stark bald head and brooding face, right? So I don't know, you might have caught their homage there.
Yeah, and I mean he's got that very sort of Eastern, you know, vaguely Eastern exotic look to him. Like he could be sitting in a temple in India somewhere, that kind of thing. So I don't know. And of course, like the chess pieces and everything like that, that's a very sort of exotic and Eastern game as well. As well as the nightly game, which ties in with Iron Man quite neatly. So it ties in with Iron Man on multiple levels, right? Like as the science man who's very logical and rational, as well as the knightly man who's very dashing and.
With Obadiah Stane in mind, could we pull up the anti-globalist panel?
Oh yeah,
I have it up right now
at the bottom of the page, right there. That whole sequence there. Well, there's one before that, where he starts talking for the globalists, and I think that was. Oh god, I don't have the page number on that. That's where let's all behave like our favorite animals, and they all start turning into furries, basically.
Yeah.
He sets it up earlier, but one at the bottom there is the main.
Yeah.
Which is combined with him giving like an epic, intelligent speech, and then followed up with something silly
Tony,
and
right?
like this is perfect, like little kid villain, right? Because he actually has a pretty sophisticated plan. We're going to form an international coalition that will allow us to transcend antitrust laws. But then he mind controls them and tells them to act like animals. So that's how
he said, guys.
Yeah.
Get ready for the global homophobia. Yeah, is there any way to zoom that in closer? Is that the furthest you can? I mean, I know Marmaduke posted it on his Twitter.
Let me see
so I guess
here.
Could check it on Marmaduke's Twitter too.
Or maybe, hang on, let me see if I can do it this way.
You've seen the recent BBC's Dracula? Dracula's
I
the biggest fedora tipper in media. Like between that and Castlevania, I think the Britvongs might hate Jesus. Yeah, they definitely do. They've hated Jesus for a while, and some of them are starting to regret it. I can tell you the Monty Python guys are starting to regret it at this point, unfortunately.
Though I guess so. Wait, is Dracula portrayed sympathetically in BBC's Dracula? Though, because I feel like it would fit with a Satanist, like child of demons or whatever, to literally react to the cross and like. Okay, there's this interesting.
He would be a fedora tipper, wouldn't he? I mean, I haven't seen it. This is Evie's comment here.
Yeah.
About Dracula, but he would technically be a fedora tipper if he was a real character, because he does hate religion. So
I'd be interested if you've seen something like this in other media. There is a Marvel comic where someone, I think it might have been like Kitty Pryde, who's a Jewish girl, holds up the cross to Dracula, and then Dracula says, "Wait a second, you don't believe in that, therefore it has no power over me." But then Nightcrawler believes in the cross, so when Nightcrawler holds it up, it works. I really like that angle, because if it's
that's
why would the
Stephen
cross?
King angle.
Yeah.
Have you ever read like Salem's Lot? I think it was that he did that. Might have been Salem's Lot.
Salem's Lot. So they have a thing where you have to have faith for the cross.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm going to go with Salem's Lot, because from what I remember, it was the vampire one that he did. But there is a Stephen King book where it's made explicit that the power of crosses against vampires is specifically due to your faith. And as soon as the priest, like when he's faithful, he's able to blast them with like laser beams and crap, but then he kind of wavers in his faith for a moment, and then the laser beams all dissipate and the vampires eat it. Fedora cringe instead of thoughtful antichrist.
Oh, you got it. But I don't have the follow-up panel. Okay, Punchy has the follow-up panel in the response to this, so you'll be able to see it there.
Yeah, so you can click that, and then you can click through the response, I guess. But
the follow-up, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we have. Yeah, this is a pretty based moment here. Not much of a philosopher, not much for abstract thought, but if I believe in anything, it's the value of the individual men, individual nations. Obadiah Stane's scheme to form a secret association of us who operate across national boundaries denies that value. Its real purpose is to destroy the laws, the traditions, the very identities of the countries where we do business. That, gentlemen, is something we have no right to do. Yeah, so here's Tony arguing that forming globalist transnational corporations is bad because individual humanity and individual nations are valuable. Pretty damn based.
It's almost like all these
ideas
are that this has been stuff that's been going on for for decades and generations.
And then Twitter just made everyone
Here's
think
the
it popped
follow-up.
into existence. Yeah. All right. So I want to see this follow up
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
I don't.
I won't
be
be
a part of
I
it.
hope you won't either. Yeah. Shall we reply to Mr. Stark's most eloquent plea?
Woof woof.
Woof woof. Ooh. Oink oink oink.
Okay. What's beautiful about this?
Google's
It's saying Global Homo's response is absurdity and nonsense to a moral stance.
Yeah.
I mean that is current year. That is current year in like 4 panels. It's the revolt against current year and the response by the moving past. There you go. This is the most important comic that we've read. It actually does tie in with the dystopia streams. Funnily enough, because there we go. We get a 4-page
and it's
4
Iron Man.
Okay.
And it's Iron Man 167 for our listeners if you want to go look for it. And yes, once again, the most important comic there ever was.
Yeah, and the Google stuff that's
Evie
just something
says,
I added. That's not original to the art.
No, it's not. He added that on, but it's still it's a boss meme. Globalism denied. Yeah.
So attention to be denied.
Which,
we'll see how well Tony manages it in a bit.
Yeah. But like I'm seriously going to use Iron Man 167 as the justification for one of the story ideas I have for like my fan works that are Iron Man related. Because I really, really, really honestly think that I need to do an Iron Man fan work in which the bad guys that Iron Man is fighting are tech billionaires that are trying to take over the world to accomplish the Great Reset. Because obviously, he's in that milieu, so
it's basically just going to be actual things happening, but with Iron Man, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm trying to think now, like how I can disguise that that's what I'm doing, but then I don't know if I can disguise it. So
let me just be the first to say that it's really tragic that Right Geek shot herself in the head 3 times and then threw herself down the stairs. I don't know how it happens, but I disavow anything that's about to happen here. So,
Iron Man is killed somehow. Somehow, toilet paper pierces the Iron Man armor and breaks his neck.
Yeah.
Well, to make it a really good story, because one of the things that we've been kind of implying throughout this whole discussion is that in a good story, the hero has to almost be cast as the underdog in the situation. So, I don't think I'm going to be breaking Iron Man's neck with a roll of toilet paper, but I think in a story like this, I would make it very, 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 very difficult for him to win and put him in a very difficult spot because honestly, like my favorite Iron Man comics are all the ones where he is in difficult spots. Like I said on Twitter that the Denny O'Neil run is my favorite run for precisely this reason. The fact that it breaks him all the way down and puts him all the way at the nadir of his existence and then builds him back up. Makes for a really great story. Iron Man did not kill himself. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe what you could do is you could get him deplatformed and then have him implicated in the January 6th insurrection. Something like that. And then he's got to work his way back up from there without the support of Google or PayPal or any of the banking systems. And then all his money in Bitcoin evaporates because they decide that they'd rather have fiat currency, which is about to go bankrupt, so they kill Bitcoin instead. Something like that, and then he's broke and he's living on the streets.
Yeah. But I also wanna beat him up because I like Marv and I did a stream where we talked about Manhunt in Volume 3, which is another one where that's a story where he gets accused of attacking the Chinese embassy, so then he has to run and be a fugitive. Oh, and at the same time, he gets like beat up and shot, and missiles are shot at him, and he can't actually like. Oh, when he gets attacked in the hospital too, as he's recovering from one of his injuries, and he has to fight his way out of it, and like, I want to do that too because I really really attached to Tony Stark is so injured that he's about to pass out inside of his armor and he's bleeding out. Like,
so basically, what you're saying. What you're saying is you're the guy who created Wonder Woman, except you're for Iron Man at this point, right?
Yeah. I hate to admit it, but yeah.
I was going to say, I mean, it would make for an interesting story, but that whole attacking the Chinese embassy thing, today you could just have him make a comment about Winnie the Pooh outside a Chinese embassy, and that would be enough to set off the thing. So you might want to be careful because you'll get deplatformed for even mentioning that. But I'd say go for it. That might be interesting. I mean, I do agree with you in that the core of what makes this Denny O'Neil run interesting, at least so far. Mom and I are only like a quarter of the way into it, a third of the way into it.
Yeah, 10 issues.
Yeah, 10 issues into it.
And the climax happens at 200s. So.
Oh, really?
Okay, we got a ways to go.
Wasn't the Shakespeare? Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking like, oh, the Shakespearean climax was when he got the drink spill on him, but we still got more to go.
That was the inciting incident. Yeah, that was Macbeth going to visit the witches, right?
Okay,
and that sets him down the path.
Yeah, and then actually drinking would be the downfall. Except this time he's actually going to have redemption. Hopefully, have redemption rather than.
And 182, my favorite issue is the turning point, but 200 is the actual like end of the story and final victory. So
yeah, okay, well, yeah, because I think the real strength of this Denny O'Neil run so far has been the fact that he's willing to show Iron Man and War Machine and all the others, Clytemnestra and Morley and Captain America, even Antifa guy, as vulnerable, and the Machine guy too. When he was the protagonist briefly, he's willing to show these characters as being vulnerable underdogs who have to struggle to win. Even when Tony is on top, he's always got something to keep him struggling towards winning, right? Like the ticking time bomb of having to rescue Rhodey, and that's right. I mean that's good writing, just anyways as a general policy.
Or in 167, just being really really tired.
Yeah, just being really tired.
Yeah.
I mean, all
and one of the interesting things in 167 is it repeats a sequence, the falling cable car. It repeats it, but the second time he's like, well, this was really easy for me a couple of issues ago when I was at my best. Now I'm not, right?
Yep. Yeah, and you see the deterioration of Iron Man gradually as it goes along. So
right.
It's like watching a slow motion.
Basically gets kicked into a snowbank.
It's basically Sonichu, really. It's a well-written version of Sonichu.
Are we ever going to? I feel like it. If we were ever going to red pill Right Geek on Sonichu, it should have been before the Twitter trend, right? I guess, yeah. Well, okay.
Is there a Twitter trend? What Twitter trend?
No, that I'm talking about like months ago, right? Chris Chan did what, right?
Oh, with the Mummy Gate.
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, yeah. that was pretty horrible.
That was the first time that made I never felt bad for following Chris Chan. That was the first time where I legitimately felt bad that I knew who Chris Chan was, that it had pushed to that extreme. So I don't know. But to actually tie it in with Iron Man, yeah, the tragedy of Iron Man works as a tragedy because tragedy isn't just bad things happening to you. Maybe it depends on Greek tragedy versus Shakespeare. But in Shakespeare tragedy, the bad thing happens because the character's flaws, the character's personality becomes their destiny. Macbeth hears a prophecy that he'll become a king. His wife kind of bullies him into becoming it. So he becomes the king and has power, but he's basically unmanned by Lady Macbeth, right?
Yeah, Belle Delphine gets him too, unfortunately. She's like, "Hey, Macbeth, buy the bath water and poison the king with it." And he's like, "Oh, is this a vial of bath water before me?
Take my milk and replace it for gall and bath water." Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Iron Man's very, very much that kind of character, I think, because he does have his personality of the outwardly he's the overachieving Giga Chad party guy, and inwardly he's the insecure sniveling emo kid, and those two personality traits kind of collide with his drinking, because that's partying and that's also trying to escape into his emotions, and it just winds up becoming a downward death spiral of Tony's potential. But do you think there's any elements of Greek tragedy in it? Because you mentioned that, Marmaduke.
All right, so let me think about Greek tragedy. So in Oedipus, I feel like the point of
no.
Well, okay, as an illustration, Greek tragedies seem to happen because something bad happens to a good person by mistake. Better one than Oedipus would be.
It's like destiny. It's like the
Theseus.
gods.
Okay, Theseus promises his father when he returns, if I'm dead, they'll sail black sails. If I'm alive, they'll sail white sails. He beats the Minotaur. He sails back. He forgot his promise to his dad. They sail the wrong sail, so his dad thinks he's dead and commits suicide. Right. So it's not Theseus's personality creating the problem. It's the good man makes a mistake, and that mistake destroys his family or destroys his life. And even the reason I reference Oedipus is I feel like Oedipus isn't Oedipal. Oedipus accidentally sleeps with his mom. He feels really, really bad about it. So, I don't see that much in Tony.
Evie says, Evie says Tony is that same little boy in the library. Yeah. But he feels, once again, something that we said before is he feels that he cannot be his authentic self because of a lifetime of training against it.
So he actually does have. I've been thinking about this a lot, right? Like, how do you facilitate the SJW? How do you find the nugget of truth in the SJW myth? So you kind of hinted at this earlier when you're talking about the difference between real toxic masculinity and the feminist myth of toxic masculinity. So one I've been thinking about a lot is the myth of boys don't cry, where that's in the woke worldview, telling a boy not to cry is one of the worst things you can possibly do to a boy. When a boy any mature child needs to learn not to cry and learn to control themselves, right? But maybe the facilitation of the SJW worldview is you shouldn't have an image of masculinity that becomes an idol or that corrupts you or makes you into something you're not. But instead, you should have a view of masculinity that's based on helping people. So Tony has both. Tony wants to help people. He's compassionate, but he also has this image of masculinity that his father imposed on top of him that is adding to his problems and making him sort of a neurotic mess. He needs to
get past his father's
Right.
vision for him and get to the point where he's a hero for his own sake, and he's not using something like alcohol to medicate his,
Right.
I don't know, frustration with himself.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think the thing, at least from my own experience and my own perspective on masculinity, um, uh, especially in relation to like let's go with not crying, right? Like when you say, "Hey, don't cry, man up." It's not really so much about never crying. It's about learning where and when to cry.
Yeah.
And how to cry properly, right? Like the idea is that, like, if you're a little kid
Right.
and something goes wrong, your first instinct is to cry about it, right? But the masculine approach would be
Yeah.
your first instinct is not to cry about it. Your first instinct is to get mad and punch the thing in the face and or fix it or whatever. Deal with the problem, and then maybe later when you're alone in private, if there's still something wrong, you get a little break and you cry.
It's also manly to cry over your fallen comrades after the battle is over. That's the most manly thing ever.
Yeah.
It's knowing where and when to cry,
Yeah.
and being able to tamp your emotions down and put them in check when you have to get something done that your emotions will get in the way of doing, right? Because I know, like,
Right.
I'm a veteran myself, right? Like, and I was a crap veteran. I was a total desk jockey for my brief stint in uniform. But I know we very quickly learned not to show emotion around people because you just get teased mercilessly, be a little bitch. But I think I cried more in service than I have like ever actually. But it was always like in private. Like you go to the bathroom, like, oh shit, this sucks so much. I wish I was home. And then 5 seconds later, you just kind of dry your eyes and you're like, okay, yeah, whatever. Dress right, dress. High speed, go out there and do your thing. So it's not so much like there's this idea that when you tell kids like, hey, never cry, like it's you want to turn the kid into a sociopath that represses everything and just explodes one day.
Or
or
if you want to turn your kid into Tony, who hasn't learned how to regulate. So
I mean, he cries a lot.
As you say, he tries to push it all down until one day he explodes, or he relies on his addictions in order to, as you say, medicate. Right?
Yeah, it's a fine balancing. You need to learn what you're entitled to cry about, and when you have the luxury of crying, right? Basically, you only turn you want to turn boys into half sociopaths, not full sociopaths. It's basically what
you want them to be able to turn it off and on. Yeah, turn on bulldog mode when defending from the hordes of evil invaders and muggers. Turn off sociopath mode when you're playing with your adorable children.
Yeah. I mean that at least is my take. Other people's may be different, but that's what I got out of it, at least. I mean, Tony's
having the ability. Having the ability to, as you say, turn it on and off. That's the key. And the problem with Tony is that he doesn't have that ability. So all he knows how to do is to repress or to medicate. So things build up and build up and build up until they explode, essentially.
Yeah.
And then when they explode, then he doesn't know how to deal with it. So continue the cycle of medication, right?
So which do you think would be a better medication then? Belle Delphine or crying a lot? Like if because Tony's got to be a flawed character, right? Because he's got to be an interesting superhero, and we need to give him some flaw. And he's had the try beaten out of him by his father, and he's tried to replace it with Belle Delphine. But would it be more interesting if instead he was like some kind of bitch-made zoomer who just goes on TikTok all day and whines and cries? Or do you think that it's actually weirdly a character's strength that he's addicted to e-thoughts and bathwater and stuff?
I feel like that's tying in with his. It's a separate problem that's tying in with his main problem, right? He needs to find his own identity of manhood. Iron Man is a part of that because he's playing it being a soldier and actually being a hero. His play it being a knight is actually being helpful. He's an alcoholic because he's stressed and needs an outlet, and he wants independence. One thing I noticed is in a lot of his drunken rants, he was complaining about how other people were putting him on, or the world was against him, right? So there was a very much like an emphasis that when he's drinking, it makes him feel powerful and makes him feel righteous, and that feeds into it, right? And so his girl problem is he also needs like a mommy to take care. He needs a mommy to take care of him, but because he has to sort out his issues, he can't have that.
Right, Freud. Tell me about his mother.
I don't know anything about Tony's mother. I just know that he would love. What's that political compass meme where it's like authoritarian left monster girls, authoritarian right mommy girls? That's where Tony is on the political compass.
I don't know that, but that sounds about right though from what you're describing. I mean, Reiki, do you happen to know anything about his mother? Like, is his mother? Because you've mentioned his father, but do they go in? Is he like a only single parent household kind of guy? It sounds like he is.
No, he has a mother, but he has a mother in the comics. Unfortunately, the comics don't really address her that much.
Problematic. There's something you can go with. Pitch something about his mum to Marvel, and they'll give you a job, and then you really screw with their heads. There's not really anything about it. Like, is there any, at least like a hint of like how she's contributed to Tony being Tony, or it's just not there right now?
Not really. There isn't really any exploration of that. It's mostly focused on the father.
Evie asks if she died at the beginning, like a Disney movie. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, she's, or maybe like midway through, like Bambi's mom or something, and then that might explain.
Well, in the comics I was talking about earlier, where they get from the late 80s, where they get into Tony's relationship with his father, the mother is there as a sort of background character, but we don't see a whole lot of. We see her at one point protecting Tony when Howard is in one of his drunken rages and looks like he might, in fact, smack Tony across the room, Banner style. But that's we don't really see. She doesn't really get to talk much.
Okay, so that might
portrayals of Tony's history.
That might explain his interest in trophy girls who look really pretty, but just kind of stand around. And B, in his interest in a protective mummy who can save him from drunk dad.
People he's either completely uninterested in the long term, or girls he's 100% invested in.
Yeah, girls who can save him, or girls who are just like wallflowers who look pretty and he can bag and then forget about.
Yeah, talking about on-off switch. Yeah, talk about on-off switch. Yeah. You either have the candy girls that you're dating 5 at a time, right? Or you have that one girl and it's suddenly like day 2, I want to marry her. There's no like middle ground with him. So
what other characters were there too? We did Thunderball, right? And and we did Clytemnestra, who I love. She's great. We did all the taxi drivers.
She-Man.
And the globalists.
Yeah.
We touched on the fire guy. Who's the Antifa guy?
Yeah, Antifa guy. Because he has some spicy takes on
Firebrand.
Firebrand. Yeah, I'm not really familiar with him. I had to look him up, but he is actually like Antifa guy. He used to be like a '60s activist or something, and then he turned.
Yeah, and he originated in the Iron Man comics in the '70s.
Oh, really? Okay, so he's got a long history with Iron Man then. Was he always a supervillain then, or was he like, well-meaning?
Yeah.
Well-meaning activist guy who turns evil over time.
Yes.
I love the intersectionalism scene, by the way, where he called Rhodey a pig, and Rhodey actually didn't bring race into it, but it's just like, dude, I'm neither a pork product nor am I a political leader. It's a white liberal calling a heroic based black guy a pig. Go figure.
Yeah, well, I mean that's current year again. I mean that history is a flat circle. It repeats, and all the things that are going on now are things that have happened in the past, and they will happen again in a few generations. Always does. So that's why it's important to revisit old media like this, so that we may learn from the wisdom of our elders. And hopefully not like crap like the new Marvel stuff who grew up on this. Again, my operating theory is that and the secretary lady, did we go over her? Because she Me Too'd Tony at one point, which I thought was funny. When he's trying to save her from the melty floor.
Oh yeah, you have no right to take liberties. Now, you have no right to take liberties. Now we've kind of, I think we mentioned in previous streams that she's supposed to be a bit of a stodgy, like, oh, I can't believe young people are engaging in PDA. Yeah. We didn't do that in my day.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. I have the headcanon that the reason that Tony has to have like a dumpy,
Mrs. Arbogast is always the one that's there.
Yeah, page 7 of 166, I think, is where he has his big interaction. I mean, he has several interactions with her over time, and then it seems like they're always kind of spicy and snippy. And yeah, I think Marmaduke, you're probably getting at how if it was a hot secretary, he'd be too busy banging her, that kind of thing, right?
Right. Like maybe they got her on purpose so that Tony the Playboy could let her do her job. Yeah.
Yeah, she needs to be dumpy so that should be able to do the job. Yeah, I mean, sad but true. That's probably exactly what it is. It's a good move on Tony. Did Tony hire her? Was that like one of his board members or something? Do you know? Is there a backstory to her?
She replaces Pepper Potts, right?
No, she just said. No, she just replaces Pepper Potts, and there's no information as to who hired her.
All right. Well, I think.
But it could have been Tony. It could have been Tony thinking. Well, I fell in love with my last one, and that ended badly. So let's try not to hire someone I'm going to fall in love with.
Yeah. I mean, it could have just been like, hey, you got to have more diversity in your comic kind of thing too. But I'd like to believe that it was done on purpose so that Tony would be able to. Didn't they do that in Mad Men at some point too? Am I hallucinating? Did they get like a dumpy secretary for someone intentionally because they knew if she wasn't dumpy, he'd be trying to sleep with her or something like that?
I don't know Madman, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it. I just kind of saw it in a blur, though. Most of the last few seasons. I mean, it's good, but it's a blur, I guess. Yeah. So Melty Guy.
Melter. Yeah. Okay. Melter's line that I loved is Yeah, I'm out on parole. I promised I'd be a good boy. I lied. Immediately puts on his superhero villain suit and walks to commit assault and battery against the same guy that got him in jail.
That seemed a little absurd. I was like, how did they let this guy out on parole knowing and he just shows up at the office, and it's implied that he's there at the office for several days, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, how do they not know he's going to go after the same guy?
Sitting there, like, in his supervillain getup.
Yeah.
I mean, or coming once a day is the vibe I got, right?
Yeah. I mean, here, 166, I think the first page or something, where he's like, that's okay, lady, I'll wait as long as I gotta. Right? Like, implying that he's just going to be there. I've been telling you for the past week. Yeah, so he shows up every day and just sits there in the office or in the front room or whatever for all day waiting for Tony to show up. Like, in creepy supervillain outfit. I don't know. Yeah, and I think that was before the. Was that before the robot or after?
I think it was before the robot, because that was the reason why Tony thought another guy was attacking him. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. Because I remember when the robot showed up, I was like, oh god, this thing again.
Yeah.
He's got weirdos showing up every single day. And it's
yeah. I'm scrolling back to my captures from that issue. Hold on a second.
Flat Earth. More like flat historical patterns, yeah.
Flat.
And
dang it! Come on.
There
we go. Yeah, so this is after the melter. Yeah. You might as well write this building up, Mr. Stark. The structure is so badly damaged, it's not worth repairing.
Yeah, it's kind of a metaphor for his life.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah,
the physical world reflects
good.
the spiritual reality. Yeah,
that's another really good thing, because I mean, Denny, like, he has this core story. Like, he has a really solid grasp of his characters and the drama and the struggle of the characters, but he also peppers it with these little illusions and these metaphors, and some of them are subtle. Some of them are not so subtle, but it works really well, like foreshadowing and slaps a pre-coded problem lock. Like that becomes a plot point.
You would have to pick today. Yeah. Right, my people. It cost me about $4 million in rebuilding costs.
Is this the one where
he pick today? That's all part of his first day ever.
Is this one where he starts becoming victimized by the female gaze, or was that a later issue? Which is the issue where he winds up running around in his skivvies for the entire.
Okay, that was with Rhodey. Oh no, I just reinforced your other thesis.
Yeah, because he's in his underwear with Rhodey all day.
69, yeah.
Oh, it's 60. What?
Yeah, I got those captures too.
Obviously.
It's 169 mostly.
Yeah, that kind of stood out to me too as just another that was another way of reinforcing. Having Tony in his underwear is another way. Yeah, I was gonna say it just reinforces his pathetic state, right?
Yeah,
like it's like your college roommate is pissed drunk and running around in his underwear, and you're sober.
His vulnerability, right? Because it's contrasting Tony basically naked versus Rhodey, who's now got the Iron Man suit.
Yeah,
right? It's Tony at his least powerful, at his most vulnerable, and Rhodey now at the peak of what he's been able to achieve in his lifetime, right? So it's a strong visual metaphor. But the thing that really got me reading that was, again, getting back to that idea of like double standards and toxic feminism. because they can have a storyline like this with Iron Man, where he winds up almost butt naked with a black man putting on his clothes. But they could never get away with doing that with a woman character, right? A female character butt naked with a black man putting on her clothes. That would run out of town. So just that is my rebuttal to women in refrigerators and the Killing Joke.
Maybe we need to read She-Hulk, old She-Hulk, for more fan service.
Okay, well, yeah, old She-Hulk maybe, but that's an old comic I'm talking about.
Exactly.
There's stuff like Jinky Coronado and all these like 90s and manga and stuff like they're all comics that can get away with that. But as far as like Marvel in current year and post deconstruction comics and all these kinds of things, like it is a definite double standard and it's not acknowledged. And unfortunately, if you start bringing it up, then knowing the way Clown World goes, we're just going to lose the ability to have Tony Stark running around naked, which would just be terrible, So you might as well just keep your mouth shut. But yeah, and here you go. This is the lock again. They bring up the lock and how he's able to get in, but now he's so pathetic he can't even get his own locking mechanism open, and he's completely defeated. He's got all these like classical poses as well, which I thought was kind of interesting. Right? Like you can tell the artist was like, "Oh yeah, I finally get to put my anatomy lessons."
Yep. Pull up the Renaissance reference images. Yeah.
Pull up the Donatello.
Yeah.
And the nose and stuff. So that was kind of fun.
Okay, there was a little detail that's jumped out at me when Rhodey was trying on the armor, which is that the armor accentuates your movement, so he just flicks his wrist and he accidentally puts a hole in the wall, which is a really neat sci-fi idea because it suggests it explains why is everything so dramatic in the comic book. There's actually a reason why Iron Man looks so dramatic. B, that's like something I've seen in like really serious sci-fi books, like the armor accentuates human motion, right? So it implies that Tony has to be in a very careful state of control just to like walk around without knocking over doors and stuff, right? So Tony at his best is hyper in a state of hyper control. Yeah,
that's probably a good point. I wasn't even thinking about that, but I guess it's kind of like a surgeon or something, right? Like trying to show up to a surgery job stone drunk. I mean, it's bad enough being stone drunk in like a regular clothes, but if you're able to put a hole through a wall just by flicking your wrist, when you're sober, I can't imagine. Like Tony can barely even walk across the room, so.
And that's why it was good in that in the one good Civil War comic that
the
what's
Captain
his name
America
actually brought all
one.
of that up. Brought that up as the Captain America Iron Man Casualties of War, the one good comic.
Or the one where Punisher shoots everyone in the head. Because that one was great too, because Punisher shot everyone in the head.
But yeah, that I love that they brought that up as a possible reason why Tony would side with the government, because he would be very, very aware that as powerful as he is, if he were to get drunk again, people could be in danger because yes, in his past, he has in fact endangered people while being drunk in the armor. So
actually, that was something I was wondering. I was going to make like a silly joke on Twitter, but I couldn't think of a way to make it funny, so I didn't do it. But basically, because Marmaduke, you referenced when he was flying into all of the billboards, right?
Yeah, the alcohol signs. Yeah.
Doing a total detour tour.
Yeah. Let me find that. I got that one.
I was wondering if that was like maybe anticipating him turning into like a Carrie Nation prohibitionist or something, like smashing up all the bars and
Oh, sure, yeah.
all the alcohol. But I mean,
What was
that-
odd about it is when they were doing it without anyone commenting on it, it was like, oh, I get it. They're visually having him blow through an alcohol sign as a way of it communicating to the reader who doesn't know what's going on that he's drunk, right? Then he goes through 4 signs, and they have a bystander observe that that's what he's doing, right? So it's just like comics is always taking clever metaphors, but clever metaphors pushed to the absolute point of having someone just say what the metaphor is, which I love.
Is it just a metaphor though? Like, is it just like, hey, yeah, he's like busting up signs, and it's, you know, a metaphor and it's kind of random, or was he intentionally defacing booze signs because he was mad at the booze?
Maybe because later he doesn't remember blacking. He blacks out and he doesn't have any conscious memory of that. So maybe that's unconscious Tony Stark trying to get out and express his rage against his alcoholism,
destroying the biggest booze bottles he can find, and not or something.
It could be interpreted as that's him unconsciously knowing that the booze is destroying him, so he unconsciously he's targeting the booze sides in particular.
Yeah, and they do some New Yorker-phobic things on this page, where he says New York all looks the same or something like that. Yeah, all the buildings look the same. That's really racist against New York. It's true, but it is really racist against New York City. I mean, it is true. I've had family who lived there, and it's all the same. Miserable place.
Now it's all trash. That's the reason why.
Yeah, it's all trash because of Iron Man.
Oh, that was the panel I was referencing earlier, where he's like getting absorbed into his own little world. Yeah,
I don't remember.
Oh yeah, and the fake news where he started shouting fake news at CNN. Oh, I've got that in my notes too.
Yeah. Anthony Stark's mysterious bodyguard got mad at Midtown last night, or at least at the advertising in Manhattan's busiest neighborhood. Our Channel 3 news team got this exclusive footage of Iron Man destroying billboards high above Times Square. Huh? Fly. Trick photography. Yeah, basically he's yelling fake news at CNN.
Fake news.
The mayor's special assistant. Fake news. We're expecting Mr. Stark to come forth with an explanation and an offer of restitution. And a pig's eye, well. Crummy journalist trying to boost ratings by blackening my good name. Listen, I was here all night, just sitting around relaxing, having a few drinks. I don't remember going anywhere, and you'll be hearing from my lawyers.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why I was wondering. What's
it's 168.
Nice.
I believe it's 168.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
That was the film, wasn't it? Hang on, I think I have it somewhere. Oh no! Yeah, it is 168.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got one panel from it, the one where he's talking about using reason rather than violence, which is a very Iron Man thing to say, right? You know,
to do, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, this is further reinforcing my thesis that Machine Man becomes Iron Man for that one issue, and then Iron Man
for that one issue, yeah. Uh-huh.
I mean, it's just like a fight with, actually Namor. It reminded me of the Namor fight quite a lot. Except how Machine Man is Iron Man and Iron Man is Namor, and he's all pissed off and confused.
It's Namor, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was quite. I don't know much about Machine Man, but that was a good Machine Man issue as well. I assume he's a machine, right?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I don't know much about him, but that his dialogue implied he's fully a machine. And Pinocchio is hoping he can find another Pinocchio Oh, he's a man. Oh, I thought I was
Yeah.
going to have a best buddy robot friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aw. This is
Yeah.
this is just more captures
Yeah,
of
that was pretty. That
Rhodey
was
coming
pretty
back
bad.
from his little stint in the hospital and realizing, oh shit, he really has fallen off the wagon.
Yeah, I actually felt legitimately bad
Yeah.
about that page because I've had like
Yeah.
veteran buddies I know who get a bit too much drinky drink, and I don't drink at all, so you know
Yeah.
every time that happens, I'm like I go into roadie mode.
Mm.
Yeah, those were some good panels as well.
Okay,
top right.
This is a nitpick, but the inking really bugged me in this issue because it just felt like anytime there was a shadow, the inker would just put a bunch of vertical lines there without any solid blacks, and just something. It just like illustrated how like an inker can really change the feel of an entire comic for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
So shade, sorry, inker from 1980. I'm gonna throw shade at you.
Ouch. He's dead out. Yeah, because you've done like whole streams on that, haven't you?
But the content of the panels is very interesting because it's after Rhodey has kind of quietly judged Tony for falling off the wagon. He goes into the armor and says nobody in the world disapproves of Iron Man.
Take that, Dad.
So it's another sort of. It's another scene that take that, Dad. It's another scene that that reinforces the Iron Man as escape trope that runs through pretty much all of Iron Man canon.
I mean, is there anyone that disapproves of Iron Man though? Like what about like villains or things? Because they kind of they don't approve of Iron Man, do they?
Well, villains, but
yeah,
villains are different. He's talking about the rest of the
villains
world.
don't count.
Super villains aren't
Everyone
people.
who counts.
Yeah.
Geestop Ganders. Everyone else loves Ned Flanders, not me. Everyone who counts loves Ned Flanders. Yeah, okay, and then he's fighting Magma, who's flipping cars like an Antifa thug as well.
Yeah.
Seems to be a
he's fighting Magma and not doing a very good job of it. And this issue, this is the one where because he's not sober, right?
Right.
He causes a blackout. He causes a blackout in his own factory.
He says it's the first time he's ever run away, right? At some point around here. Is that true? Like, has he as the resident Iron Man geek? Can you recall any other point in time at which he's run away from a fight? Prior to
he has
the continuity era.
No, in the past he has done tactical retreats, but usually only temporarily, so that he could charge up or something, and then he has an intention to come right back. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what he does in this, though, isn't it? Because he runs away, but then he's like, okay, he's coming, so I'm going to get ready. You know, it's not
Fair
really
enough,
so much
yeah.
running and hiding; it's being a tactical retreat. So I think it would qualify as the continuity era. That's going to be my entire stream now is talking about this continuity era. Not actually running away.
Or we could just say that because Tony is wasted, he doesn't remember his own history.
You won a no prize.
No prize. Good job.
I win a no prize. I can't wait for my empty envelope. Yeah.
Like, would they still even do that anymore?
Yeah,
would they just send you like an empty email or something, like a tweet with nothing, with no text or something?
Well, the last no prize I heard of is Joe Quesada gave a no prize to like some SJW for calling Comicsgate a bunch of bigots or something.
But how does that explain in the universe? I mean, was the Comicsgate like something?
Oh yeah, that's the point. It didn't even give her a no prize for explaining something in comics universe. It was just, you're a bunch of bigots. I don't remember that's old Comicsgate drama. Okay, so I've tried to like delete those memories from. I've memory hold my Comicsgate memories.
Yeah, but this is him because he's wasted, lacking out his whole complex here. Is this part of your plan? And he's like,
related to like Tony's life falling apart. I think they're like two drunk Iron Man fights, like one with that machine and one with Machine Man, and in both of them, Tony's destruction takes several forms. Like I remember when he broke the machine, the guys were saying, "Man, we really need to get this, to keep this company afloat." So it underscores how he's hurting his own company and his financial future. The guy complained, said, "You just wasted 4 years of my life." So he's pissing off his employees.
Yeah.
Right.
With the blackout, he's hurting everybody in the city, obviously. So there's this nice element where when he's drunk, it's not just like stuff he's breaking, it's stuff and his life and people in his life that he cares about and his employees.
Yep.
Yeah. There are multiple the impact of
multiple
evil
layers
trickles out in multiple ways. Yep.
Yeah.
Were you the only one? Just real quick before you get off that page. Oh no! Were you the only one whose kind of heart leapt into their throat when you saw that last panel there? Knowing what you did about Tony being a blackout drunk and being really terrible at everything he's doing right now.
I mean, it is an impactful moment. It's like a silent, pregnant pause on just how messed up he looks, where you can tell he's messed up because his actions.
My thing was that he was going to blast him by accident, right? Like out of being drunk. It's like a setup for.
I thought, is he going to like blow him up by accident or something?
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, he's not going to kill Remy. Like, this is terrible.
Oh god, yeah.
But yeah, nothing comes of it. So. False alarm, I guess.
Yeah.
Still, the fact that you get to that
one other thing that comes of it,
that's what you're thinking.
He doesn't blast Rhodey, but we do get.
Yeah, crying, Tony. That's a very powerful.
He doesn't blast Rhodey, but what we do get is the identity reveal.
Yeah.
Because this is when Rhodey finds out. He doesn't know that Tony is Iron Man until this moment.
Well, I think he has an idea.
He does say.
Yeah.
He does say on the next page. I kind of suspected. Yeah.
I kind of figured it.
He does say. I can't say I'm surprised. I've known you a long time, Tony, and well, there are some things that even that metal skin can't hide. So. He did sort of suspect, but this is the time he gets the confirmation.
Yeah, because wasn't there something like earlier in not necessarily this issue, but like one of the first issues we were reading, where he kind of hinted that he suspected it was Tony, or I can't remember where it was. I want to say that there was something very early in the reading where I was like, yeah, does he already know that Tony is Iron Man, or is he just like? Maybe it's just foreshadowing or something. I could be crazy, but that is my recollection that there is something, and of course I can't find it right now. But yeah, I think it's made clear that he didn't know for sure, but he was pretty sure that Tony was Iron Man.
Yeah. And it's interesting that when Rhodey gets the confirmation. Yeah, he's pretty sure of it, and he doesn't think it's he doesn't think it's really a surprise or a contradiction as far as how he knows Tony, right?
Yeah.
He figures that, oh yeah, that just perfectly fits him, right? That it would be him.
Now, there are some things that metal skin can't hide. What's nice is like a reveal of a secret identity, but also hinting again that that metal skin can't hide the alcohol problem, right? So there's like double significance to this reveal.
Okay,
Right.
was he specifically relating to the alcohol? Because the thing that I was getting out of that was that he was referencing like the nobility of Tony's spirit and the fact that he's a true knight or whatever.
Oh yeah, so like if he's really like a Chad, yeah, then it shows up. Who he is shows up whether he's in Iron Man form or Tony form.
That's right. I mean, I guess it could be both. It could be that he recognizes Iron Man's being drunk, just like Tony, but he's also recognized that Iron Man has that same kind of inner strength that Tony does.
I would say I would say why not both? You know,
I guess so.
It could be all those things. Yeah.
You should give her.
Okay, let's
make
see.
her Iron Man next. That would be a great idea.
So that covers that.
Oh yeah,
I think
we've
covered pretty much everything.
The Daredevil cameo.
Oh yeah, he just assumes that Iron Man must have a good reason for running through all these signs because
all through the billboards. He's like, it must be a good reason, whatever, and then goes on and leaves and never mentioned again. He's pretty good.
I think. Oh, we haven't covered the Burger King gangsters yet.
Yeah. Those guys were fun. The ones that in the alley.
Family Guy changed my life. Well, specifically the clip of Rush Limbaugh on Family Guy changed my life.
Yeah, the multi-ethnic gangsters in the alley. Yeah.
Family Guy and Rush Limbaugh.
Rush Limbaugh was a guest star on Family Guy once. You haven't seen that?
Oh, the one with Brian, where he was like trying to be shitty with Brian, and Brian was being shitty to him or something. I think I saw that like years ago. But
it was actually Rush Limbaugh camoing as himself, and it actually kind of like portrayed Rush pretty well. Like Rush came off as the smarter guy, and Brian is sort of the dumb liberal who didn't really know what you should think. Yeah, so it's just an interesting media moment in television, right? One of those like rare conservatism breaking through a liberal progressive show kind of moments.
Yeah, I mean, well, you were talking about that on Twitter earlier, weren't you? Like trying to figure out where there might be conservative moments on liberal. I mean, I think that might be the only instance in Family Guy. I mean, there's a few, but not many, because Seth MacFarlane is very much a knob-slobbering Democrat. I mean, he's like a neoliberal Democrat, not like a proggy Democrat. But I mean, like South Park and King of the Hill would probably be the two ones I would recommend. But yeah, these this gang, because they actually kind of reminded me of some trope that Red Letter Media calls attention to quite frequently. Do you guys ever watch RLM?
I've only watched the roast of the Star Wars prequels.
Okay, those are the really famous ones. Those are the best ones too. But they do series on like B movies, like really bad B movies from the 80s and 70s and stuff. And there's this trope in all the old like early 80s action movies of the multi-ethnic, totally diverse biker, thug, Rasta, Mexican, Chicano, heavy metal rocker, Satanist street gangs, right? Yeah. So here we get
that street gang. They look totally cool.
Yeah, it's the woke mob. It's you've got Satanist guy, you've got black thug, you've got like I guess the guy on the right's Mexican or something, and the guy in the middle, who knows, possibly an Arab, maybe. I don't know, but they're all like people that wouldn't be in the same gang together, and they all just kind of show up and beat you up for no reason in the streets of New York. So that's that's a fun little trope that you see in a lot of like 80s stuff. I'm wondering if the guy. I mean, it probably is. Well, actually, it might be. Is that guy supposed to be Dave Mustaine?
I don't.
Same bishop guy.
How do you simultaneously know about cryptic cults from the Middle Ages? Know about pop culture from the 70s and 80s?
How do you thanks largely to Dave Mustaine. Actually, Dave Mustaine got me into it. He's the lead singer from Megadeth and lead guitarist from Megadeth. Because he looks a lot like Dave Mustaine. He's got Dave Mustaine's haircut, and he's got like kind of a Dave Mustaine attitude too. So I don't know if that was supposed to be like a visual reference to Dave Mustaine or something, but that's in my head canon. That's what Dave Mustaine's doing in this universe. He's beating up Tony Stark. Or trying to at any rate. Then he gets the Pulp Fiction guys with Samuel L. Jackson and oh god, what's his name? The other guy, the really famous Hollywood movie actor who's in all the things. He was in like Face Off, and he was.
Okay, I'm gonna admit to my internalized racism here. I took one look at that guy and thought, "Oh, it's Rhodey, come to save him," and then it turns out like this guy
was thinking that. I mean, there's only so much you can do with a comic page. It does look like Rhodey.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not. You figure it out pretty quick.
It's Stain's henchman coming to pick him up. Because he doesn't want Tony Stark dead. He wants Tony Stark humiliated. So
Travolta. Yeah, thank you, Warzord. That guy. It's the Pulp Fiction moment when Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta show up to do their little bit, and
yeah,
and they imply that he wants to drink. That was pretty good. They have their little quippy dialogue to get him to get drunk and meet up with Stain.
Yeah.
Actually, there's also a subplot that there are all of these guys who are conspiring to like bring Tony to parties and get him drunk, right? And his friends haven't saved him from that. Like Stain's like a very much like an anime, goofy over the top. Like he has planned this out. Like he has people all over the country ready to just grab Tony and pull him in for a party at any given moment.
Yeah, he is pretty good. I mean, one of the things I was thinking was like the Monty Python bit with the with the castle of peril there. You ever seen that?
I know what you're referencing. Yeah,
Galahad. Yeah. It's like that, but instead of Sir Percival, it's Tony.
Let me go in there and drink the peril.
Yeah. I think I can handle this peril. Actually, you can just leave me to it. Nope. Oh, and actually, one thing I was wondering, when he fights Stain earlier, right? Or he doesn't actually fight Stain. He aborts the fight with Stain. And they give some kind of excuse like, well, you can't prove that I'm the villain mastermind, so ha 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 ha. What was the deal with that? That didn't make any sense to me because Stain just admitted that he was the supervillain, and it's very clear that he's the supervillain.
I feel like, well, can you prove it in a court of law? Now, the funny thing would have been for Tony to just pull out a recording device, right, in that moment. So I feel like that was Stain, them playing up Stain as dramatic, over-the-top bad guy, even if it's so dramatic and over the top. Like, well, why didn't Tony just do that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but like, again, why doesn't... I mean, Tony, like, he doesn't stop and be like, oh, okay, hey, Melter guy, you just showed up, but I've got to make sure and prove that you're going to commit some crimes before, I try and stop you. Like, is that Melty Beam actually, committing a federal crime, or is it, maybe a misdemeanor?
I think he had probable cause once Melter melted through the floor, and the chubby secretary fell through the floor.
I mean, didn't Tony have probable cause when Stane's goons are coming after him, and Stane tries to kill him and tries to kill his friend, and then he's floating and bragging about how he's the guy that's trying to kill him.
He had witnesses for Melter, but no witnesses for Stane, right? So Stane probably could just have like his henchmen say, "Oh, we were just sitting here watching television and he came in." Yeah.
Okay, but what about like people that he fights like in the middle of nowhere, like the preacher guy, right? Is he using the sheep as his witness then? I mean, he's fine, almost murdering the preacher guy, like Mr. Bishop.
Okay, he promised to bring in his lawyers to. Oh, you're right, because he promised to bring in his lawyers to make absolutely sure those bad guys went to jail, but he didn't bring in his lawyers to make absolutely sure Stane went to jail.
I mean, I don't get why he was like, oh, okay, I'm just going to let you go. I mean, I get like they need to have the plot continue, because if he killed Stane right then and there, there'd be no more tension and the story would be over. But it still just seemed really contrived and weird, right? Like if it were me, I would have been like, oh, maybe Stane says, haha, Tony, I have Belle Delphine locked in a tower somewhere, and now you've got to run off and save her, but you only have enough time to do one thing. You can beat me, or you can save the girl. Ha! And then, of course, Tony has to go save the girl.
Or he could say
betrays him, that kind of stuff.
Or he could say, I've got some... I'm a billionaire who's got some of law enforcement in my back pocket or something.
Would that dissuade Tony? Is he? Would he be upset about beating up a guy with law enforcement in his pocket?
Well,
what are Tony's rules? Does he have like a Dexter code or something? Because it sounded like, from that exchange, it sounded very much like he has a Dexter code where he's got to prove that the supervillain is committing a crime or something before he can do anything. Is that the case, or was that just?
Yeah, I mean, he does have a code. Yeah.
Okay.
This is still Iron Man operating kind of like within the letter of the law.
Comics Code Authority. Yeah.
Okay, so he's obedient to the CCA then.
Yeah.
But again, so has there ever been any other case where a supervillain admits to being a supervillain and doesn't get beaten up?
I've seen that trope done. They always do it with the mastermind. The mastermind admits his plan because the hero can't stop them, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think at that point, like, the hero could have stopped him because
I feel like
that's
a bit of a plot. Yeah, he's beaten up guys. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't seem to have, like, does he actually have any like fighty powers? I mean, I suppose we'll figure that out later, but I mean, he looks like he does, but he never actually does anything besides, manipulate Tony and send henchmen out to attack him. So,
yeah, I don't know about.
No, I don't think he has powers. I think it's just manipulation and the use of henchmen.
He's just smarter than Tony and richer than Tony, and one step ahead. Yeah. Okay.
Higher energy.
Yeah, he's the Giga Chad. He's the mega super.
As we move through the story, we're gonna learn his backstory eventually. So,
well, actually, doesn't high T result in baldness? Is that something I've learned?
I've heard that. Yeah,
I think I've heard. So
yeah,
I've
heard that
might
too.
be it.
Yeah.
He's yeah, that could be it. And it kind of reminded me too of oh god, what was it? Was it Napoleon that broke down in tears at the thought of Alexander the Great, or something like that? Or
I haven't heard that story.
Broke down in tears. Julius Caesar. I mean, I'm sure Matt would know. Matt.
Wait, you don't mean Alexander the Great complaining as a child that if his father conquered too much, there would be nothing left for him to conquer, right?
No. I mean the guy. There was some guy, some conqueror general guy, either Caesar or Napoleon or Hitler or Stalin or something, who supposedly broke down in tears because by the time he was Alexander the Great's age, Alexander the Great had conquered the entire world, and he had only conquered like a part of Europe or something.
Feeling world conquerors feeling neurotic about the years going by.
Inferior, and like that was kind of what I was thinking when he was talking about Stain, right? Like he's like, oh, he was younger than me when he became super millionaire guy, and oh god,
Oh, that hits.
Yeah.
Too true.
He's the Tiger Mom kid. He's comparing himself to all the other Tiger Mom kids.
This is sort of a bridal carry here too, when Roddy picks him up off the street.
Oh yeah.
They seem to like that, like bridal carrying Tony Stark.
Okay, well, I think I need to finish up for the night.
Yeah,
so
it was
so
Caesar,
what would you like to say as your final thoughts?
A load of fun, and we've stopped on a cliffhanger, so we'll look forward to more of Denny O'Neill's run.
Yeah, it's been really good so far. I'm glad to see the beginnings at least of War Machine. I mean, technically he's just Iron Man 2 at this point. I'm looking forward to the rest. It's definitely better than Civil War so far. And it is better than the first run. Unfortunately, no offense to the earlier stream, but I am enjoying it quite a bit.
Yeah, I figured, Punch, that you would like this one better since your primary complaint in the last one is that the alcoholism didn't feature as strongly as you would have liked it to. So I was well, then he's gonna like this one.
That was really over the top.
He's gonna like this one.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean, I can. I mean, we probably should have started with trigger warnings because this is definitely like heavy alcohol, and it does get worse. I mean, I know I've read.
It does get worse, yeah.
As I said, I've read several issues that you've recommended. So,
next stream is going to end on 182, which is like, okay, trigger warning for alcohol abuse and suicidal ideation. Just FYI. So
it's pretty depressing.
It's very grim, but it's also the turning point issue. So
we're gonna do 174 to 182. So we're gonna do 8 issues.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that would probably be a good issue to end on too, like just for dramatic purposes or something, I guess. So
yeah.
All right.
Well, and what about you? You're welcome.
Okay.
Yes,
thanks.
and I've really enjoyed it. And thank you to Warzord and Evie for stopping by to listen in the live stream. And thank you to anyone out there who listens to this asynchronously. Once again, I appreciate you as my audience, and I hope to see you again in our next stream.
Yeah, and can I just say, if any Iron Man writers happen to watch this stream, that whole thing with Charlemagne is my idea, so don't you dare steal it, you bastards.
Don't you dare. And don't you dare steal my idea of Iron Man fighting the Great Reset either, because that's my idea. Yeah, copyright me.
Copyright right, Geek. Unless you want to hire her, in which case go for it, because she is a good writer. So
okay. All right. So thank you very much for listening. And I hope all of you have a good rest of your evening.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.